Welcome, one and all, to SkepTalk, the show where you can talk to skeptics, whatever. I'm Forrest. I'm joined today by John Gleason. How are you doing, my friend?
What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? I'm doing pretty good. You know, I did find out that apparently my mom mainlined Tylenol when she was pregnant with me, and that's why I have ADHD. Apparently,
that'll do it. That'll do it. It turns out that all of the pharmaceutical research, the biomedical research, the just clinical research, all of that stuff is wrong because some guy who doesn't know how to read a scientific paper, who works for a president who doesn't know how to read, period, decided that fucking Tylenol is the most dangerous thing in the world because it'll give you autism, and autism means that you will never write a poem or fall in love or be productive in society. All things that are very clearly backed up by something. It drives me absolutely insane that this is the nightmare that we're living in, where people can just say garbage and a whole cult will just nod and wear their stupid hats about it. But that's part of what the show's about, is that if you think that the lying, cheating, rapist, grifter in the White House and his band of flying fucking monkeys have anything interesting to say at all, if they're right about anything, if they're useful in any way, if they're productive or helpful or beneficial to not just American society, but literally anything in the whole world besides lining the pockets of Nazis and billionaires, this is your chance to call in. But also, we're here to talk to theists. We're here to talk to people who believe in gods and ghosts and angels and demons and spirits and whatever other mythical creatures are out there. We've already got one person on the line who wants to talk about that. We're also here to talk about science. If you're a flat earther or an anti-vaxxer or a creationist or whatever else, we're here to help you. This show is famously just here for people who disagree with us to call in and have hopefully productive conversations. Conversations aren't always productive, but that's okay. We are always as nice as the callers, as much as we possibly can be. So pick up the phone, call that number on the bottom of the screen, 720-619-2288, or use the web link in the description to call over them internets. John and I are happy to talk to you. Before we get started, John, you got anything cool going on you want to talk about?
Nothing really all that cool, I guess. I mean, I've been trying to do more streams over there on TikTok, taking people up and talking to them about whether or not Jesus existed, or whether or not Mary was raped by God in the Gospel of Luke, and I do all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I've been really busy at work here lately, being that lazy ass liberal, not doing anything good, and just trying to praise the Dark Lord Satan. Of course, I do. Before we take our first call, I do want to point something out, though. I don't know how many people heard the grand announcement today about the Tylenol and vaccines and everything like that, but I feel like Donald Trump told on himself a little bit there, because he was like, "There's no reason for babies to get Hep B vaccines when they're born, because babies don't have sex." And you know what was the suggested? He suggested that 12-year-olds are when you should get the Hep B vaccine. So, I mean, I'm not saying that he has the proclivity, but he seems to be admitting it.
Yeah, I mean, flip, dude. I haven't had the opportunity to watch the whole thing today. I heard he struggled to pronounce the word acetaminophen, which nobody is surprised. That's my whole thing, is I think the reason they keep saying Tylenol is because they are too fucking dumb to know what acetaminophen is. And Tylenol used to be owned by Johnson & Johnson and is now, since I think 2022, owned by a company called Kenvue. That's kind of this like offshoot company that was a subsidiary and now is its own thing. And it's a very big company. It's a company that broke off from fucking Johnson & Johnson. They're quite rich. And I hope that Kenvue sues the absolute bullshit out of the Trump administration and RFK Jr. specifically, and demands that they prove their research in court with a whole fucking panel of scientists to tear it apart. Because, hey, if they're right, they should be able to back up their claims. They should be able to do good science. But they know they're not right, and everybody knows they're not right. They're just saying dumb shit to make changes because any change is good change, because as long as they're in control, causing chaos and dominating the news cycle, nobody notices the blatant fucking fascism going on, and maybe we'll stop talking about the Epstein files for a minute. So, frankly, I have never in my life more wanted a corporation to win in court. I have never in my life been rooting for a fucking corporation more than I am at this moment, because holy crap, these people are dumb as a fucking bag of sand. Just one. They can't be dumb as multiple bags of sand. That's too smart. Just the one. They're sharing that amongst themselves. And they are killing people. They are causing serious harm. They are causing people to lose their health, their lives, their respect, dignity, their rights, and that fucking sucks. So hey, once again, if you are a member of the MAGA movement and would like to talk to two woke leftist liberal whatevers, feel free to call in and give us a talk. We would love to discuss this with you, and just we'll just say the word vaccine and see what happens. It'll be a lot of fun. With that though, we've already got some folks on the line wanting to talk. Are you ready to jump right in?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Sweet chicken. All right. Let's start with our first theist caller of the night is Marlon. Pronouns he, him, calling in all the way from the Philippines. I believe I talked to Marlon yesterday as well. I would like to discuss proof for the existence of the supernatural. Marlon, you are on the line with Forrest and John. How are you doing today?
Hi, how are you guys doing? Hey, Forrest. Hi, John.
I'm all
Nice
right.
to call back.
Yep, doing good.
So,
I'm
I would like to discuss about like the proof or the existence of the supernatural, like ghosts and spirits and demons. But I
all right.
can tell that even if you guys don't believe in God, you guys can believe in the supernatural if it's proven, right?
Sure. If it's proven, I would believe in it.
What are your thoughts on the supernatural, guys? What are your thoughts on like ghosts and demons and stuff, you know?
I mean, do you want to start, John, or
I
do you want me
mean,
to?
I think they make great horror movies, but as far as like a pragmatic sort of view of it, I think that they're just pareidolia or some kind of misconception, misidentification due to our pattern-seeking brains that cause us to attribute some kind of like unseen force to things that we just don't understand. And so that's what I think that ghosts are. I mean, I've lived in houses that creak and crackle like all night. Even the brand new house that I'm living in now, it creaks and crackles. When I was a child, I lived in my grandmother's house, and obviously you hid under the blankets because that is the force field that keeps all the ghosts out. I don't know what about blankets prevents ghosts from like just sticking their head in and going boo, but apparently that's just how it works. And so like I would hear creaks and crackles in the middle of the night and think that it's like, some ghosty person walking through the house. That's what I thought because I didn't know and I was too scared. I was a child. So like that's what I think that ghosts are.
Yeah.
Well, what about you, Forrest? Just like
I would say the same thing. Ghosts and demons and spirits and angels and all these things, they are just the labels that we give stuff that we don't understand, and the bumps we hear in the night, and the scary monsters that live under our bed that don't actually exist, but we conjure up in our brains. Um, I was once a child, and I remember believing in all this stuff because my parents taught me about this stuff, and I remember burning herbs in my bedroom to excise the evil spirits from it and to keep me safe at night. And I felt so much better and slept so much better afterwards. It didn't do anything. It just calmed me down. It was doing a ritual that made me believe that I was safer when really there was nothing to be afraid of in the first place. And so, yeah, we as people, when we are young and when we don't know a lot of science and when we aren't good at critical thinking and we aren't good at avoiding logical fallacies and traps of reasoning and all these things, we try to prescribe agency to things that we don't understand. I don't know what made that sound. I don't know what made me feel uneasy in this moment. I don't know what's behind that bush. I don't know what's under my bed. And so it must be some creature that wants to hurt me, or maybe, I can't explain why I was able to find my wallet after looking to it for a long time, or how I survived what could have been a deadly accident. It must be some creature that's watching over me. It's any kind of unexplained phenomenon, especially one that is emotionally charged. We tend to assume there's some agent that's doing those things, and that's simply not the case.
Okay. So, uh, so let's say you guys don't believe in ghosts and spirits and demons because you can't see them, right? Because like they are invisible to you. Like to see is to
No,
believe, right?
No.
Like
I would say that it's not about a visual identification of them. It's more specifically about indetectability. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Like, the president does acetaminophen. But like if we should be able to detect spirits or these supernatural things, like in reality, if they have the way that I see it.
Like what? Let's say there's like we can use devices like EVPs, electronic voice phenomenon, and there's the ghost rods, and like you can use
Okay.
like thermal
So
imaging.
if I can,
Yeah.
hold on, Marlon.
Okay.
So
Yes.
I've actually been on like ghost tours, like in Louisiana and stuff, and I've actually held ghost rods, which if I'm not mistaken about, which they're actually dowsing rods. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. Yes.
Are those
Correct.
ghost rods? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, you can manipulate those with your hands, and that's exactly what the tour guide did. He manipulated the things with his hands so that he could play like he was detecting a ghost. You can manipulate those things that way. They portray them as being unmanipulatable, but that's not actually accurate. Now, for EVPs, that is going back to what I said at the beginning, more about pareidolia. Your brain is trying to make a sense out of nothing, and so your brain perceives it to be a certain way. If you watch these ghosty shows, a lot of the times now, at least, they don't allow you to try to make out what it says on your own because you don't know what in the fuck is going on, right? They always have subtitles going on underneath it, or they preface preface it with telling you what you're supposed to hear. And so basically your mind it's like one of those sounds where, you can hear one thing or hear another thing. And like people, there's that weird auditory thing. Same thing with the EVPs. I mean, you're not really hearing like any kind of voices from beyond the grave.
Are using energy to communicate. They're getting energy
What does that
from
mean?
electricity.
What does that
They're
energy mean? I don't know what that
getting
energy is.
energy from nearby electronic devices. That's why on these ghost hunts that you say, there are people that have their cameras drained or their phones drained or their devices because they use the energy around them to move things around, to communicate. They just like
Right.
it's like food.
Sorry, Forrest, I'm not trying to monopolize the conversation here, but the whole battery draining thing and all that kind of stuff. I mean, there's no way for you to actually tie that to like a ghosty experience there. I mean, there's any number of reasons for a battery to quickly lose its energy hold. But Forrest, what do you have to say about all this so far?
Well, what about the Ouija board? Like when you guys are holding the Ouija board, and what if the planchette flies on its own? Like,
yeah, Marlon, are you familiar? Are you familiar with the term ideomotor reflex?
No, what is this?
So idiomotor just means it's motions that you are doing without realizing that you're doing it. And so when we talk about the rods, when we talk about the Ouija board planchette, when we talk about all these different things, what's happening is a human is controlling this and they are manipulating it in ways that cause it to look like a ghost is doing it. And they're not consciously aware that they are manipulating it. You see the same thing in the little pendulum. That was something that was big when I was a kid, is you would spin this pendulum. And if the pendulum swung this way, it meant no. And if it swung in a circle, it meant yes. And you are just swinging the pendulum with your fingers and you don't realize the tiny difference in the way you move your fingers to swing the pendulum that causes it to swing in different ways based on the answer that you want the ghost to tell you. So when it comes to electronic equipment, like the electronic, voice, whatever, or the battery thing, like that's just stuff it's literally deliberately malfunctioning electronics that people then interpret because of what John said earlier, the pareidolia and apophenia, looking for patterns where there aren't really patterns, looking for information where there isn't really information. These are very well understood psychological phenomena. We do this to fill in the gaps where there isn't any information. And when it is something that we can control, we accidentally control it in ways that we want to.
Oh yes, you can say that until you're gonna see like one of your friends got possessed and you see their body convulsing or something, or if they got dragged to the floor during that video board session. That's not part of
seeing someone. When I was younger, I believe I was a pagan. I used to believe in all of this magical stuff. And I did see one of my friends get possessed. But now, as an older person, I look back on it and I realize she was just behaving in a dramatic way because she was whipped up into a psychological frenzy over the rituals that we were performing, the same way that we see Christian congregations where people fall over on the ground and writhe around with the Holy Spirit, the same way we see other religions where people flog themselves to the point where they're bleeding and jump up and down and scream and shout and have all these big emotions and these huge overwhelming feelings. It's because they're performing a ritual that gets them into a state of psychosis, the same way that happens when you go to a music concert and get really excited and pumped up about the music. It's just a thing that ritual can do, and it doesn't actually mean anything.
Okay, then how about if there's a visual evidence for ghosts? All you have to do is type ghost caught on camera on YouTube, and
yes,
you can
and
watch
isn't
like
it
endless.
and isn't it amazing that
and like shadow figures, like white
and
woman,
Marlon,
white woman.
isn't it amazing, Marlon? Isn't it amazing that the better cameras get over time, the less and less and less ghost images we get? Because those orbs are just artifacts of light where the camera didn't process something properly. The rods are usually insects and things that just were moving faster than the frame rate of the camera. The shadow people were just issues with the photo negative having a blur, a smudge, or whatever on it. Like, all of these things that we used to think were ghost images were just bad cameras. And if we looked back at photos from the 90s today, we would think everyone had demons because they all have red eyes.
Videos of ghosts, like they're all moving around. I've seen a legit video of a ghost.
No, how do you know it's legit? I'm sorry. How do you know it's legit? How do you know that it's not produced in some kind of way? No, don't get me wrong. I love watching the creepypasta videos like on Instagram and shit, but they're produced.
They're caught on a live stream or a CCTV camera footage.
You
can
absolutely manipulate those. So Marlon, my question to you is: when you see those videos, what do you think is more likely? Is it more likely? I'm not saying possible. I'm asking what is more likely? Is it more likely that the live camera footage either is manipulated in some way, or it's actually filming something that's really reasonable, but it just looks way scarier than it is? Or do you think that it's more likely that there's some supernatural creature that's been caught on this camera and isn't caught on all cameras all around the world randomly all the time? It just happens to be this one time that it happened to wander in front of a camera, despite the fact that houses all over the place have cameras in front of them now.
I mean, there's this YouTube channel, Nuke's Top 5, and they capture like paranormal entities all the time, all around the world. You just
Right.
need to
Marlon,
check, like,
But if you go to London,
right?
if you go to London, Marlon, there's a camera on every street corner. They have CCTV cameras all over the place. Here in America, there are cameras everywhere. Every store has a camera in it. Street corners have cameras. There's speed cameras all up and down every road. Every house has a Ring doorbell camera now. You've got security cameras outside. You have all these cameras everywhere. Are these ghosts just shy? Or is it just maybe every now and then somebody captures an image of something that looks a little weird because the camera isn't very good? Or maybe somebody manipulated the footage and made it look like something that it isn't.
I mean, I think the footage
Marlon,
can be manipulated, you know.
Well, Marlon,
Yeah.
can I ask you?
Yeah.
You keep, the one thing
Yeah.
that you keep saying here is that you know that it's not manipulated, or you know that it's authentic, and I'm just kind of curious, what leads you in that direction? Like, what evidence is presented that makes you think that these are legitimate, like, video evidence of a ghost?
Because I've seen like video evidence of ghosts or demons that cannot be explained, like legit it cannot be explained. That
But it can be explained. It can be explained.
even on
somebody
like
made a
Nuke's
video.
Top 5,
Like if I go
somebody
watch
made a
a new
video.
evil, if I go watch a horror movie in the cinema, I don't wonder if maybe some of that might be real. It can look very real, but I don't have to worry about whether or not it is, because I know somebody manipulated the footage to make it look like a big scary monster on the screen. So when you see a YouTube video and the channel is all about scary videos, and the entire point of the channel is to put out videos that look like ghosts and demons so that they can get views, so that they can make money, maybe you should just wonder, maybe this video might be fake. Maybe somebody put it into photo. I use Premiere Pro to edit my videos, and they've got Premiere Pro and After Effects, which are both Adobe products, and they put a scary ghost on the screen, and then they put an overlay over the video to make it look like it was a Ring doorbell camera, and then they put it on the internet, and they got 10 million views, and they made $30,000. Like, that's a much more reasonable explanation, and something that anybody could do, rather than saying that there is this supernatural entity out there that has never been photographed by any decent camera, isn't photographed on any of the commercial cameras anywhere around the world, isn't photographed by any of the government cameras anywhere around the world. It just happens to be an unnamed source, somebody's Ring camera on their house, and you don't know who, and you have to take their word for it that this is the raw footage, and you have to assume that it's real, and you just have to give them the benefit of the doubt. Like, you're making a tremendous amount of assumptions, Marlon, in order to justify a belief rather than actually investigate it.
All right, then let's say, what about when you see like ghosts and shadow figures and ghost women when you have sleep paralysis,
Right. That's another thing. That's another thing that we can explain. Sleep paralysis happens. I'm going to butcher this because it's not my area of expertise, but it happens.
You're getting
It
possessed
happens.
because you don't pray before sleeping.
No, so Marlon, so there is when you go to sleep, Marlon, when you go to sleep, there is a very specific hormonal balance in your body, where these chemicals in your body, what we call hormones, are putting you down into sleep and waking you back up again. And I forgot which one it is, what exactly it does, but I'm just gonna, like I said, I'm just gonna butcher some of this, and there's
like
some biologists out there who's mad.
Like non-REM sleep.
But What have you ever, Marlon? Have you ever had a situation where you're starting to fall asleep, and as you're starting to drift off, you just suddenly jerk awake, like your body twitches really violently, and it wakes you up? Have you ever had that happen to you?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so
Like,
the reason why that
what I'm
happens.
thinking is the computer.
The reason why that happens is because when you fall asleep, one thing that your brain does is it shuts down the control to the muscles around your body, because your brain, when it's having a dream, your body is moving around. And if you didn't shut down the control to your limbs that way, your body would be acting out the dream. And so whenever that malfunctions a little bit, you can either have that time where you jerk awake, or you can be dreaming, you can be asleep, and you can start to wake up. But that part of your brain that's telling your body to stay still doesn't turn on yet. It doesn't switch that off. It doesn't let your body move. And so this is where we get sleep paralysis, where you are stuck. You can't move. Your brain hasn't allowed your body to move yet, and you're still halfway kind of dreaming. And so you end up with hallucinations where you can see scary monsters and creatures and stuff until your body wakes all the way up. That's the best way that I can explain this.
And me if it's hallucinations? Why is it hurting me? Why is it hurting people? Like, why do I wake up with like scratches on my back or around my
for the exact same reason that sometimes whenever you hear music or something while you're sleeping, you incorporate it into your dream. You got scratched by something in your sleep. Maybe a cat jumped on you. Maybe you rubbed up against something. Maybe you were scratched earlier on in the day and you didn't notice, and you only noticed when you woke up from sleep. I've had that happen plenty of times where I wake up with a bruise and I don't know where it came from. Something happened that scratched you, and then you may or may not have incorporated that into your dream. And then when you woke up, you're now justifying what happens. So again, these are things that we can actually study and look into. And at no point when we do that,
way too realistic at times. It could just be way too realistic at times. Like, I'm talking about like out of body experiences. And I even thought I died at one point because like I was sleeping and then I woke up and I see my own body. You know,
right? That's
I'm
you
like,
just
my
you just
soul
had a
has left my
dream,
body.
Marlon. 2 nights ago, seriously, 2 nights ago, I had a crazy dream, and I woke up and I told my wife all about it. And then I woke up again because I actually dreamed that I had woken up and talked to my wife. So if you had an out of body experience, what happened is you had a dream. That's it. And it was a very real dream. It felt very real, but it was not real. And so the thing is, whenever like these things you're talking about here, we've studied them in laboratories and we've found reasons why these things happen. And every one of those reasons is just a real, like, normal body response. We've never found any ghosts, any demons, any spirits, anything like that. We always find a normal, testable, predictable body response. That's all this stuff ever is.
Like when I wake up and I see my own body on my bed, or I see my soul like fly up to heaven and into space. You know,
you're having a dream. Yes.
It's so weird because I'm having this dream where, have you had this dream where you wake up and you thought you were asleep and you went out of your bedroom only to wake up again on the bed and over again. You woke up, you get out of the room, and then only to realize you're on the bed again. You're like waking up multiple times. You know, I can say that good messenger. Waking up multiple times as a dream. You know, like, where you don't even.
I don't know about any of that.
I woke in multiple times only to realize I'm in bed again.
Okay, yeah, you're just describing dreaming.
Yeah,
anyway, with that,
Marlon.
Unless you have something else, John, I'm going to move on.
No, I was just going to say that what I've been hearing tonight, Marlon, is essentially just anecdotal stories of things that you personally believe or want to believe in, not any like real evidence for it. You just have claims of like fantastical videos and everything like that. I understand that you have big emotions right now about that, Marlon. You have big emotions about that. I get it. What I was just going to say is that maybe next time you call in and want to talk about this particular topic, maybe you have more concrete evidence instead of anecdotal stuff, is what I would suggest. But we do have other callers to move on to.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Marlon. Take care.
Bye, Marlon.
Well, I think both of us clicked at the same time, and I just dropped the host.
Oh, no, I didn't click anything.
Oh, I think he must have hung up then when I was calling. Well, that's great.
You are connected as the host.
There we go.
Welcome, host. You are now in the host room and can manage your callers from the call-in studio web interface.
All right. We still got our callers. So.
Now in the host room. Yeah, the callers are fine. I just disconnected us from them because I think we both ended the thing at the same time, both Marlon and I. Thanks so much, Lux. I appreciate it. Let's move on to another theist call. We've got Andrew, pronouns he, him, calling in from Nutella Jerkin. That's what it's. That's whatever. Who wants to know what would we accept as evidence for God? Andrew, you're on the line with Forrest and John. How are you doing today?
How y'all doing today?
Never had a bad day, dude.
That's good. I got one request before I get into it. Can y'all please get rid of that awful background piano music? I was waiting in the queue and I can just, it's terrible.
Hey, Andrew.
I have no idea, nor do I have control over it.
Right. Andrew, I listened to your call last week that our last notes were for you, and you complained about it then, and you're just going to have to deal with it, bud, okay? I feel
Sorry,
like,
I'm new here. I fixed it.
Oh, okay. I was just going to make him deal with it the next time, but
yes.
They're very generous tonight. So, be thankful, Andrew, because I was going to make you suffer.
All right. I got a question. You said y'all don't believe in like any kind of like spirits or supernatural stuff or nothing like that, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
What would you accept for the evidence for God? Like, what would you accept?
You want to go first? Or you want me to?
I can go first. Essentially any kind of evidence that, at least for me in my very limited understanding of this particular area of physics, I guess, you would have to be able to reliably show a suspension of the natural order of reality that doesn't follow any unknown rules of physics or anything like that, and is truly a suspension of the natural order in a miraculous sort of way. Now that I understand that that's going to be an incredibly high bar, and really that criteria right there only gets us to, there possibly could be a God that exists out there. You would then need to provide more evidence in order to prove any specific God or even a deistic God that would be the one doing it. But as far as like getting us to us accepting that the supernatural, whatever that might mean, exists, then I think that's what you would need to do. Although there is a curious paradox there in that if we can describe it, then it no longer is supernatural. It becomes part of the natural world. So I don't know how you would deal with that, but I would think that you would need to start with showing a suspension of the natural order of reality.
What does that mean? The suspension of the natural order? I don't understand. What is that?
Well, like miracles would be one thing. Like maybe A good example that a lot of people use all the time, like I'm thinking televangelists and faith healers and everything, is like regrowing limbs. Like if you humans can't regrow limbs, and we don't possess the technology right now to regrow a limb. And so, like, if you could reliably cut somebody's arm off and then pray to Jesus or, Satan or whoever, and it just magically immediately grow a limb back, basically suspending the natural order of reality in that respect. I would think that would suffice, as long as you could literally show it growing back and everything like that, and you could verify that it's not some kind of magic trick and all this other stuff.
So
I don't know. What do you think, Forrest?
So you're saying,
like, as far as
I'm
what
a
would be a supernatural event?
Yeah, the problem that I have with it is that, like, take what you just said there. Like, you cut someone's arm off and then their arm miraculously grows back, right? Which is usually the big gambit, is why doesn't God heal amputees? People say all the time, oh, God cured this and cured that, but never seems to regrow a limb, right? So if you could show me somebody having a limb amputated and having it grow back before my very eyes, I would likely assume that was something really cool or really miraculous. But the issue is, I can't escape the fact that I can imagine some technology that could potentially maybe do something like that down the line with sufficient research into axolotl genes. We could maybe do something like that. And so I think back to, like, if I were to go to the 1500s with my cell phone and a Beat speaker, I would make everyone think that I was a fucking magician, that I was a wizard or a god, because I can do some really basic things. And I think that if there was somebody out there, some alien civilization that had really crazy technology, they could convince me that was supernatural, because I wouldn't know the difference. So when you ask me what would be the evidence that I would need for God or for a supernatural thing or whatever, it's hard for me to pin something down. I can say the same thing John was saying and say, like, you'd have to first violate the laws of nature as I know them to get close. But I think that if there is such a thing as a God, if there is something out there that really is all knowing and all powerful, that thing knows exactly what it would take to convince me and has chosen not to do so. Therefore, either it doesn't care or it doesn't exist.
Well, maybe it's not all knowing, or all part, or maybe this entity is not all knowing. My thing is like, I feel like a lot of these debates are kind of pointless, because religious people they won't be able to curb because you can be an infinite skeptic. You will have no idea if you're being honest or being bad faith. So when secularists, they ask Christians to call in and convince us of God, because, like you said, even if somebody was to cut your arm off and it magically grows back, you still might not. You still will say, well, we don't know if that's God. It might be some kind of wizard or some kind of abstract.
Andrew, we don't believe in wizards either.
It's true. It's important to point out.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't believe it. So what Forrest was talking about was a sufficiently advanced race of individuals or species could have the technology to conceivably do that. That's why I tried to stipulate it, and maybe I didn't do it well enough, that we currently don't possess the technology. You could literally show a connection between the prayer or whatever, the request of your God, and the direct effect of it growing back right in front of your face with no help, no technology or anything like that to help you. I think that would be incredibly hard to do, but that's why I said that the evidence is kind of like the requirement for evidence is set so high that it's near impossible for us to really grasp what that evidence would even look like. But as Forrest pointed out, God would know what kind of evidence we would need in order to be convinced of God. And really, the purpose of this show is to get you to call in and talk to us about maybe why you believe in God and what evidence convinces you. Maybe that evidence will convince us. And so that's why we like to have these discussions, or at least that's why I like to have these discussions. So why don't you, let's try to reframe this conversation a little bit here. What is the best evidence for God in your opinion?
Well, have you ever heard of this is what I believe my evidence is. I was watching a video on I watch a lot of street preachers, and I think his name is Cleveland Street Preachers. He was preaching, and he had a whole bunch of college kids, and they was like mocking him and making fun of him and stuff. One of the college kids goes, "Oh, what is your God going to do? Strike me?" And he was hit with a lightning strike. It's on the channel, on his YouTube channel. Now it can be God, maybe, or it could be a really, really good maybe a super crazy coincidence. I don't know. But what about
Andrew? Let me ask you this. Let's assume that your crazy ass story here is true, right? That this actually happened. Can you discern between your God or whatever God you think exists and like Zeus or Thor or any of the other like lightning gods?
Zeus or Thor?
Yeah, Zeus, Thor,
it wasn't
any of the lightning gods.
I don't know too much about those guys, so I can't really speak on it.
They controlled lightning. Thor was a Norse god of thunder. Zeus was the Greek god of lightning.
Zeus was the Greek god of lightning?
He was the king of the gods, and he famously hurled lightning bolts. That was one of his big superpowers, is that he controlled lightning and thunder. He was also the king of all gods, so he could be called the king of kings,
I don't know. I have to do my research. I don't know too much about Zeus or none of these other guys.
Oh my God! All you gotta know is that they throw.
The problem is, Andrew, is that you're talking about one video where somebody was struck by lightning after mocking God and saying, "What is he going to do? Strike me with lightning." So, two things. Number one, actually three things. Number one, all you're praising here, the evidence you have is that someone was struck by lightning, which does happen from time to time. This one is very coincidental, and that's very cool. But if it is indeed a god, then all you're praising here is that this god is violent and reactionary. He couldn't have shown up and just been like, "Hey, yo, hi, my name's Jesus. Would you like to read my book?" He had to actually physically hurt someone to prove a point in a life-threatening way. That fucking sucks. The other thing is that I'm looking this video up right now. Even if I find it by lightning, it is just one video.
I'm not. I can't remember who it was. I'm pretty sure it was either Team Jesus Preachers or Cleveland Street Preachers. I don't remember the exact video, but it happened like a couple years ago. But
okay, so I'm looking for the video, but like the thing is, even if I find that video, as I'm looking for it because I'm interested, but even if I find that video, then if this is a god, then this god was able to show up with a bolt of lightning to embarrass somebody who is making fun of a preacher. This god is not, however, interested in showing up to stop the genocide in Gaza or the genocide in Sudan or the genocide in China or any of the other major humanitarian crises going on around the world. Isn't showing up to feed the 24,000 people who starve to death every single day. He isn't doing that. He isn't doing anything meaningful or important. He's showing up to shoot lightning bolts at a child who made fun of someone on the street, which does sound a lot like the God of the Bible, granted, because in the Bible, God sends bears to maul children to death when they make fun of someone for being bald. So this does sound like the God of the Bible, but it certainly doesn't sound like anyone worth worshiping.
Well, the Old Testament Lord was an evil God.
Agreed.
Okay.
And so was the New Testament God.
I believe in. Well, I believe in Christ. I don't believe in it. The Old Testament God was a God.
Andrew. Right. Well, Andrew, is Jesus God?
Yeah, but that's not the father of Jesus.
No, hold on. But hold on. So are you distinguishing between God the Father and God the Son as not being the same person?
Well, the Old Testament God isn't God the Father. That's a totally separate entity.
Okay, so there are multiple gods. You are a polytheist. You do believe in many gods.
Yes, there's different type in the Old Testament. There, you have to rightly divide it, because sometimes it's in the New Testament, Jesus talks about his Father. He never called the Old Testament God his Father. The Old Testament God did plagues and curses. Jesus never did that stuff.
Okay, so just to be clear, by your interpretation, is that like, holy shit, there's a lot that I can say about this, but I'm trying to just make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. You're saying that the Old Testament God is a totally different God than anything that should be worshipped. And the New Testament God and Jesus are different entities. Are you a Trinitarian as well? Do you believe that Jesus and the Father and the Holy Spirit? No, okay. So just
Jesus
to be clear,
contradicted the Old Testament God a bunch of times.
So there's the Old Testament God who's that monster, and then there's a different God who had a son named Jesus. Is Jesus also a God?
No, he's one with the Father.
So Jesus and his Father. So you believe that Jesus and his Father are one and the same, but in two persons?
No. The spirit of the Father dwells in Jesus. Jesus, the reason why Jesus can do all the miracles and stuff is because of that's the power of the Father, not Jesus in and of himself.
Okay. What a fucking roller coaster. So in that case, I'm just going to get back to what I was saying before we went on this tangent. We'll probably come back to this because it's fucking wild. But like, starting back there is that you're telling me that you've got this video of somebody being struck by lightning. All that tells me is that whatever God it is vengeful, wrathful, myopic, and selfish, and is only interested in proving himself and not. Okay, so you think that... So when John asked you why do you believe in God, when John asked you why do you believe in God, your evidence is for the evil Old Testament God that you think still exists.
Yeah, the evil Old Testament God, we believe that, I believe that he's the God of this world. He's the God that sends plagues, diseases, famine, destruction. That is the Old Testament Lord.
I'm sorry, your theology is all fucked up here, and it's really driving me fucking crazy right now, Andrew. Because
I think people have been brainwashed.
No, hold on. Let me talk, Andrew. Okay, let me lay this out. Okay, because the names that you're using here are deeply tied to one another. There's no way that you can separate out Yeshua, Jesus or Joshua, from Yahweh, because they use the exact same fucking root word in order to refer to God the Father. Okay, so like you cannot separate the two like you're trying to do it. You're basically what is it called, exegesis or whatever in the fuck? Like, you're inserting information into the theology in order to create a whole brand new God for whatever reason. Maybe you don't like the things in the Old Testament, and that's fine. Perfectly fine with you dispelling the whole idea of the Old Testament. Hold on, Andrew. I'm totally fine with you dispelling the Old Testament here, but you're really doing a disservice to the original Christian religion, because the original Christian religion was deeply woven into the Old Testament. Even Jesus in the New Testament alludes to the Old Testament several times, saying that the laws of Moses will not shy away, that not a jot or tittle is going to disappear from the law until a new heaven and earth come, right? And so everything that the God does in the Old Testament is still very relevant for the New Testament, because Jesus solidifies his connection to it. Okay, so you can fuck up the theology all that you want to, but there's no way that you can actually separate those two entities.
Well, you can. Jesus, the Old Testament God, or what we call Satan, is the God of this world. When the world was
no, that's totally that's totally wrong. I'm sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt you so quick, but that's totally wrong. Yahweh is one figure of the Old Testament. The adversary, which is what Christians generally identify as Satan in the New Testament, the adversary is probably not just one figure. It's probably multiple figures, and even God sometimes does play the adversary. But there's no like Satan in the Old Testament. I just want to get that out there right now.
Well, in the Old Testament, it talks about God, the Old Testament Lord, dwelling in thick darkness. Jesus said his God dwells in an unapproachable light. He never says that my God is in thick darkness. Like that doesn't even sound just like thick darkness sound like Jesus would dwell in that. Like you see Jesus and it's like a thick dark cloud and he just comes out. And
I mean, sure,
also,
if Jesus vapes a big dark cloud, I'm sure that, he would be coming in a big dark cloud. Like, I don't see a problem. I don't see your distinction here.
I'll give you another example. Remember when Jacob, the Old Testament Lord told Jacob to go down and number the people of Israel. And then I think I don't know if it's, I remember this, Exodus, it talks about Satan going to, Satan told Jacob to number the people of Israel. So it's in the Old Testament, there's a lot of contradictory things in the Old Testament.
Okay,
I'm
I
trying
don't,
to look up.
see how that. Sorry, go ahead.
There's a ton. I'm trying to find. I remember learning about religions like this, where there's a good god and an evil god, and they're in constant combat. And if I remember correctly, it was either the Egyptians or the Zoroastrians or somebody where like that's how they explain the day-night cycle, that the sun moving across the sky was the good god going to fight the evil god at night or something like that. And like that, it's something along those lines. I don't remember exactly, but it's sounding like it's a lot like that. And basically what I'm trying to get out of this is like, this is a very, very creative way of getting out of the issue of the lack of univocality of the Bible, because the Bible is massively contradictory. And it sounds like what you've got here, Andrew, is a way of blending different religions together in order to account for that by saying that these were actually they're not different stories being blended into one fucked up story. It's actually different deities altogether. And that's something I've never heard before, which is a lot of fun for me. But it doesn't. Go ahead.
Asherah herself. Remember. Yeah, in the Old Testament, Asherah was demonized. Asherah was actually the wife of the Most High, what they call the Most High or God Most High. So he was the wife, but that wife was demonized by the old, I guess, Jewish Israelite people. There's a lot of things like in the Old Testament where God says, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, show no mercy. And then Jesus says, you have heard of old where eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. But I tell you, he says, love your enemies. Do bless those who curse you and stuff like that. So I think there are two different entities.
Yeah, right. So then how do you account for the internal inconsistencies of Jesus as well? Because Jesus does say, love your enemies and all those things. And he also says, do not think that I've come to bring peace. I come to bring a sword. I come to pit brother against brother and son against father and mother against daughter and house against. And he tells that whole parable that ends with the idea that like, if anybody doesn't want to call me the king, bring them here and slay them before me and all that shit. Like he's clearly, he fucking destroys a tree because it doesn't have fruit for him at a time. So he kind of pivots back and forth between being this megalomaniacal asshole and then also being this loving, lamb.
The slay them before me, he's talking about a king. He's not talking about himself.
Yes. I know, I just said that. He's giving a parable. He's telling a parable, but also that king is kind of the hero of the story. So like it's I took that as him saying that this is the lesson that should be learned from that parable. Maybe I read it wrong, but I don't think I did. But like,
now I want to get back to the original point because I don't want to get off track. But I forgot what we were talking about. Oh yeah, you said what will convince? What do I believe that God is?
No, I asked you, how do you deal with the internal inconsistencies of Jesus? Because you're separating Jesus from the other gods listed in the Bible by saying that he had a different message from them, but Jesus also had an internally contradictory message. So I'm wondering how you square that circle.
He didn't. He didn't have a contradictory message. Jesus said he only comes to bring life. Like if Jesus himself is the express image of the Father, so he says, I only come to bring life and life more abundantly. He never said, oh, if you don't do X, I'm going to bring plagues and all this other stuff. That was the Old Testament Lord.
He also says, so he says, what John already brought up earlier. Think not that I'm come to destroy the law of the prophets. I come not to destroy, but to fulfill. Verily I say to you, until heaven and earth shall pass, not one jot or tittle shall of the old law shall be changed. He comes. He also says something about, where am I looking at? I'm trying to find the fucking Sermon on the Mountain over here. He brings up several times that like he comes to set houses against each other, and that he comes to bring this kind of like disparity and internal strife. He says that anybody who doesn't receive your message when you go out to preach in his name and spread the message, that if any town will not receive you and will not hear you, that you should leave that town so quickly that you shake the dust from the bottom of your feet, because verily I say unto you, it shall be more tolerable for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than it will be for that city if you reject me. So he doesn't outright say I'm going to bring plagues, but he does say those who reject my message will be horribly destroyed, and I am here to create strife. I am here to bring the sword. I am here to change things violently. And also that the old laws, everything that was written, is still the law today. And that's taken by most scholars, as far as I know, to mean that he is a fulfillment of the Old Testament God. So I understand you don't believe that part, but that is definitely not consistent with the whole new law of love and love your neighbor, love your enemy, turn the other cheek, all that other shit that we get from him.
Well, you said a lot, but when it comes to
I just fleshed out the point you asked.
Jesus, Jesus himself, because the Old Testament God is the Lord of this world. Jesus is also beholden to the laws under that Old Testament God, because God, the Old Testament God is the ruler. So what Jesus came to do is set the captives free. So if Jesus,
so then Jesus is not the Lord of Lords.
No. The Father is the Lord. The Father is the creator of all things. But Jesus himself, he's not saying that he's going to do the destruction. What he's saying is, if you don't follow me, you're going to be destroyed. Not by him, but by the Old Testament lords. Because he's the Old Testament Lord.
That is not, see, that's that exegesis shit that I'm talking about right there, that you're inserting that into the scripture. That doesn't, nowhere does it say that. You're inserting that in there. That's disingenuous.
Yeah, it sounds to me, Andrew, like you've got a very, very, very unique take on the Bible that you are using to make the Bible sound consistent. And because of that, you're coming up with an interpretation of this that like I said, I've never heard before. And I'm not a Christian, but I do follow people who study this shit and listen to what they have to say. And this is something totally new. So what I would encourage you to do is talk to, we have our Justin from Deconstruction Zone. He's a former pastor. I believe he has a master's in biblical studies, knows the Bible better than I know how to breathe. I think it would be really interesting to hear you talk to him sometime, because you're certainly not convincing John or I. All you're telling us is how you interpret the Bible. That doesn't do anything for us about whether or not this God is real. And the only evidence you've given, the best evidence you gave that this God is real, is somebody getting struck by lightning one time in a silly way, which just doesn't do it for me. So I would love for you to call in sometime and talk to Justin.
Yeah, and just to add on to it, there's about 240,000 people getting struck by lightning that results in about 24,000 deaths a year. So, like that, I mean, it's not an ultra, like it's not a rare occurrence in that somebody getting struck by lightning at any point in time would be an indication of like a god like doing something. I mean, sure, maybe weird coincidence in that particular respect, but like if the environment was right at that particular moment, I mean, it's totally reasonable, I guess, with how lightning works, that somebody would get struck. There's a lot of different I mean, there's a lot of things that could factor into it that would have made him more susceptible to a lightning strike. What he's wearing, where he was standing, anything like that. So, like, there's just a lot of different things that we would need to consider before it would be miraculous, I guess.
Yeah. Anyway, have an awesome rest of your day, Andrew. I hope you do call Justin and talk to him about this, because I would love to hear how he takes your interpretation. I am not an expert on the Bible by any means, but that dude knows it front, back, and sideways, and also a lot of the ancient interpretations and the translations and stuff, and can explain to you very clearly that in a way that I can't, whether or not what you're saying makes any kind of sense.
Okay, I appreciate that. I'll call Justin. Whenever he's on, because I don't have my Bible in my hand right then and there. So yeah, I'd love to go through it with him.
Bring it next time. I would love to see that. Take care of yourself, Andrew.
All right.
So God is real because people get struck by lightning in silly ways, and also you don't want that God. There are the other gods that we didn't get evidence for, and just man, it's a lot. I appreciate the fact that he was willing to flesh out his beliefs, but there wasn't a real argument in there, and that's frustrating for me. We've got 5 people left so far on the lines here. Still got a couple lines open for the couple people in the chat that have needed to be timed out because they have lots to say and don't have a phone, I suppose. But there is a chance if you'd like to call in. That number on the mom screen, 720-619-2288, or use the web link in the description. In the meantime, I'm down to jump on to line probably 16. What do you think?
Yep, that looks good.
Let's do it. Let's talk to Marie, pronouns she, her, calling in from the Midwest U.S., who wants to talk about supernatural apparitions. Marie, you were on the line with Forrest and John. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Doing good.
So I have done some interviews with 3 different women who have told me that they have seen apparitions or demons, and all of them have the same thing in common and the same thing in common with me, which is we are all child SA survivors by a parent.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I hate that. I hate that you had to go through that.
So when I saw them, I was really young. I was like 4 or 5, which is important because when children are young, you know, I didn't understand that my dad was a monster because like a lot of parents who are trying to cover up what they're really doing, they give you whatever you want. You know, you get all the toys you want, you get the trips, all that. So the first one that I saw was an apparition where he'd take me behind a graveyard to groom me. And I thought, because this graveyard used to have a building, a poorhouse, behind it where people, you know, unmarried pregnant women, there was a lot of just baby tombstones in there, very sad place. I would see this woman walking away, an elderly woman walking away. She wouldn't make any sounds, which is what was like so strange to me because I didn't believe, my parents are both scientists. I didn't believe in ghosts. But later on, I figured out that what I was seeing was my nanny, essentially. My little 4 or 5-year-old brain was seeing my nanny because that was the person that would protect me. And that's why she was walking away. And that's why eventually, when I got older, it stopped. And then around the same age.
And you said you were 5 at this time?
4 or 5, yeah.
Okay.
I figured out that it was my nanny when I was like 12 or 13. The school that I went to take care of the graveyard. And of course, I didn't see her. And then I realized, oh, that's actually who I was seeing, was just my projection of who would save me from the horrible things being done.
Right. Can I ask you a personal question, Marie?
Yeah, sure.
Are you already seeking like actual professional help for this, like an actual therapist?
So it's very hard to get a therapist that wants to help me bring something to court. So I have received trauma therapy, but when I called the place back. They said they don't do that. They don't want to get involved in legal stuff. What happened to me takes place in 4 counties and Washington, D.C., so it's quite complicated.
Right. I imagine so. I'm wondering not so much about court. I'm just like genuinely like to get your own trauma healed and like to deal with the emotional burden of this. Like, is that something that you have already sought help with?
What is actually going to help me will be making sure that the people that hurt me can't hurt me again. I guess that makes sense.
I agree that will probably help, but I'm asking if you have seen a therapist about this at all, not whether or not you have pursued legal action or had help pursuing legal action, because I agree that that would be a good thing. But the reason why I'm asking you, Marie, is that like I can tell I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a therapist of any kind. What you are telling me,
I'm not.
in my unprofessional opinion, just from what I know, the little bit that I know, it sounds to me pretty reasonable that a child who's going through something so fucking horrific would create imaginary creatures that would be their protectors, or just something to explain what's going on, maybe even monsters that make more sense than the monstrous actions of a parent. Like, all these things that you would interpret today as supernatural, they make sense to me as the apparitions of the mind of a child, not real apparitions in the real world. And especially if you're looking back at this from the age of 4 or 5 years old, and now reinterpreting that over, decades. I don't know how old you are, but like, especially looking at it that way, your mind is really good at creating memories and reinvigorating and reimagining scenarios into things that are a little bit more fantastical than they might have been at the time. And so, just from my extremely layman's understanding of this has a reasonable explanation. However, that is nowhere near my place to actually argue with you about, because there's clearly actually some trauma here that needs to be handled by a professional. So that's why I'm asking you, because if you've already sought help and you're just looking for my opinion, I'm happy to tell you the shit that I just told you and we can talk about it. But I am not useful in this way, and I would only do more harm if I tried to parse this out with you, and it would be unethical for me to do so. So that's why I'm asking, is this something that you are currently seeking counseling for outside of legal recourse, just to make sure that you are okay?
Sure. Listen, I just called in because you probably get people who call in about apparitions and imaginary friends they had in their childhood. And I just wanted you to know that you could be talking to somebody who had horrible things done to them. And so, of course, your little child brain
absolutely
saw something.
Yeah.
I'm sure you see from all those retelling of ghost stories where the imaginary friend wants the child to like throw rocks at his best friend. But really what that is like the internalization of the harm that's being done to them, and then they harm other people because they have not connected.
Sure.
Yet. I also had
I fully accept that that's a possibility.
I also, around the same time, did have that imaginary friend event. It scared me greatly. And that continued. I only had one time that happened when I was awake, and then everything else was in my dreams. And that was basically telling me that my dad was hurting my mom and making her sick so that she would die, and he could take me away and do bad things to me. And what I saw was a demon, we'll say, a dark, shadowy figure that created 2 centipedes. And these centipedes were wearing hats. And
as they do.
I went, of course, they wear hats.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went to get a paper towel and crush them and put them in the toilet, there was nothing there. And so I just went back downstairs. Now, though that happened to be something that my mom didn't like clowns, And on one of my early birthday cakes was clowns that had a bowler hat and a hat, and that was my dad's doing. And it was in the room where he heard me.
Mm-hmm.
I interviewed these 3 ladies, and I don't disclose about what happened to them, whether or not they know. What I'm interested in is their recounting of what they imagined or saw or whatever. Because for me, I do believe that eventually when you grow up between 28 and 35, you will connect what happened. One of these women said she had a demonic entity crawl across the floor and throw papers in the air. Whatever that would mean to her. So,
Yeah,
not the
I
guy
think
that.
honestly, like,
Go ahead.
and all I keep hearing is that you've got a lot of shit that's happened to you, and I'm genuinely, sincerely sorry about all that. I can't help in any way, and it would be unethical for me to try.
I'm not asking
so
for your help. I just wanted you to know in the SkepTalk thing, not people who call in about videos, but if somebody says
right,
that they've had an
yeah,
apparition, maybe you can,
and
at
I'm
least
aware.
on your end, you can understand what's saying.
Yeah, and I'm definitely aware of that, and we do keep those things in mind. And when someone is clearly having some trauma in that way, and they're trying to relieve themselves from religion, I would encourage them to check out like seculartherapy.org or recoveringfromreligion.org, and talk to people that are actually trained in this area. But I'm not going to default to that assumption, because that is very extreme. You know what I mean?
Sure, but I think it's way more common than we think. We are truly different people when we are children. We have a different brain.
Oh, for sure.
You have an imagination.
Well, right. But I feel like what I would be doing if I were to automatically assume somebody had suffered some kind of essay event when they were a child is doing sort of an armchair psychoanalyzing somebody. And I guess not just for SkepTalk purposes, but just in my conversations with people in general. That's why I try to get them to critically think about the evidence that they have for these things, as opposed to trying to figure out why they're seeing, one thing or another. I think that if we can provoke, critical thought about these things, then, they can either realize that they were just mistaken, or they can realize something deeper, about their past, like you're suggesting. But I feel like that's going to be ultimately up to the person whose experience, they're trying to use as evidence for the supernatural, or for ghosts, or anything like that. We try to leave it up to them to have that journey, as opposed to us trying to figure that out. So, I mean, while I do think that it's a good idea to keep in mind that, like, maybe they've suffered some kind of sexual abuse event or something like that, that's why we don't just incessantly mock people about it. We try to provoke this critical thinking skill, try to get them to think more critically about their experiences.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to let you know, I'm a theist, but that doesn't mean that I believe what I saw was actually real, or even
I get that.
People see is actually real.
If you had called in to talk about theism, we would currently be challenging you on your theism, but it would be wholly inappropriate at this point for you to call in and say, "Hey, I was horribly abused as a child," and for us to go, "Well, why the fuck do you believe in God?" That's not really what we're here for, is it? So, I appreciate the input. I want to assure you, like, we do get in some shouting matches and whatnot here, and we do get in situations where we do make fun of someone's beliefs when they're an asshole, or when they believe things that are, legitimately wild. We of course do notice that there's a lot, as people who do this for a living, we do encounter a lot of different reasons why people believe. Some of them better than others, some of them more horrific than others. So I'm definitely not a stranger to someone having a terrible life experience and then using some sort of religious or supernatural experience to fill in the gap there and make themselves, a little more sane, feel a little less alone, a little less empty, a little less cold, and that's all fine. And I try to be more compassionate whenever we're talking about things like that. Generally, if I'm going to be a jerk, it's good because somebody is either also being a jerk or because the religion they're espousing is evil, which happens a lot. But with that,
I think all religions are evil.
I think that religion as a whole is bad. I think that religious people are generally fine. They're probably misled or abused in a different way than what we're talking about here. But I think religion as a whole is a net negative for humanity. Yes, it is a domestication tool for humans that causes people to believe and say and do awful things more often than not. And think that they're good people while doing so.
Consider all the literature from around the world that we would lose if humans had no religion, because we'd lose folklore
and imagine all the literature that we would still have if religious people hadn't committed genocide against other people for having the wrong religion and destroyed their entire culture.
Well, and Marie, I think that you're automatically assuming that we wouldn't have other like works of art or like literature in that particular respect that would convey or could convey the exact same thing without the religious I guess imagery or something like that. I mean, there's plenty of like secular sources that you could pull from that would end up, coming away with the same kind of imagery or same kind of message. And plus, there's been plenty of religions in the past. That doesn't mean that we have to continue having religion in order to have good literature or anything like that. But I just to answer the first question about religion being a net negative or whatnot, I typically go with the Weinberg quote. I believe it's Weinberg who says that good people will do good things, bad people will do bad things, but to get a good person to do a bad thing, you need religion. I'm paraphrasing. It's something along those lines. And I think that religion can be a tool to like, for some good, in one respect or another. But I think ultimately religion is playing upon people's gullibility. And when you do that, you significantly open them up to being manipulated into doing things that are actually bad while convincing them that it's good. Like the persecution of the LGBTQ community. I mean, I can't see a good reason to persecute that particular community at all. And the only reasons that anybody has ever come to me with it have been either bunked science that is fueled by religious indoctrination against that community. So, I think that to get somebody to do a bad thing, you need religion. That, not to say that that's the only way, but I'm just saying like that's a pretty effective tool.
I think there's lots of billionaires that have their hands in all sorts of things that are not religious people, but we are some of the first generations to have atheism. Before that, it was deism, and that moved the perception of God away from a God that would intervene in your life or could be prayed to just kind of like, oh, God created things.
I don't get that, especially after watching this great documentary that's actually on HBO called Maxima Mea Culpa in the House of Silence, because in that you have a lot of people that are talking about the Catholic Church and the Catholic organization, which is a criminal organization that circulates pedophiles around the world. There's literally accounts. Richard Sykes, I think it's Sykes. He's done massive studies on religious people, specifically Catholics, sexually abusing children and others in the Catholic communities. And there was one Catholic priest guy that literally anointed a girl's genitals right before he raped her. Mm-hmm. And so, like. I get that you want to blame atheism or you think that atheism removes some kind of barrier to performing these horrible actions. But going back to my quote, good people will do good things, bad people will do bad things. But to get somebody to do a bad thing, like rape a child while anointing them with a communion biscuit, to get them to do that and to accept it and to think that it's fine and perfectly normal, I think that you need religion or something religion adjacent.
I disagree. I believe that humans are capable of all sorts of horrible things without the intervention of anyone else or demons or
so,
they want
some
to
are.
do them.
Some,
I think
some
that
are, but
religion
that's not
gives those people the cover to say, oh, God wants me to do this. But without that cover,
right.
you know, people who have lots of money can be like, oh, well, this is good for the world because I have lots of money.
So
Right.
yes, some people are evil, and some religious people, well, some evil people will be religious and will be continue to be evil. The key here is that, like, we look back at the genocide of the Native Americans here in the U.S., right? With the slogan of manifest destiny, that God wanted us to have this land, and these filthy, unwashed heathens that are barely even human are in the way, right? That is, it's a fundament. The idea is foundational upon this religious belief that the colonizers were given this land by divine right, and that these people that are here on the land aren't even really people because they aren't Christian, and that they need to be either eradicated or forced into conversion. And this is not even like the most extreme. This is an extreme example, but holy fuck, there are so many other examples exactly like that, caused all around the world, where religious people will go in and do atrocious things to these communities and eradicate these populations and force them to convert by pain of death, just because they believe they have the divine right to do so and they have the right God. Now, you can't tell me that every single one of every single person that was in early America were all sociopaths that just wanted to go out and kill people. They were probably, a lot of them, most of them, everyday, average, ordinary people who were convinced by this religion, this dogma, that they were somehow superior because of their culture, because of their behavior, and that forcing children, Native American children, into a boarding school to have their hair cut and their culture stripped from them and to learn the ways of Christianity was the good thing to do. Same with slavery. The reason that we had the slaves' Bible here in the U.S. was to force slaves to convert to Christianity and remember all the parts of the Bible that talk about how to buy slaves, how to own slaves, how to beat slaves. Slaves should obey their masters, especially their Christian masters, all that other shit. So religion is a tool that is used to domesticate humans and further imperialist agendas a lot of the time. And because of that, it is very easy to get good people to do evil things. The Crusades would not have happened without religion. The KKK is a religious organization. The Nazis were a religious organization. The Taliban is a religious organization. The Lord's Resistance Army is a religious organization. Like, you can take average, ordinary, everyday people and convince them that the creator of the universe wants them to do hideous, heinous things. And it works, because if you can get people to believe absurdities, you can get them to commit atrocities. That's what we're talking about when we say that religion leads to harm. We're not saying that there are no evil atheists, and we're not saying that there is no such thing as a good person or a bad person with religion. We're saying that religion is a tool that can be used to cause horrible, horrible shit to happen. And any benefit that you might get from religion, you can get without it and not have that danger involved.
So not all parts of Christianity are the same. A lot of our founding fathers were deists. The Nazis were occultists, and they took over the Lutheran Church by force, and the pastors that did not want to be part of the Nazi movement were eventually sent to their deaths on the front line. They were Lutheran.
None of this changes a single thing that I just said.
Oh, but I think a lot of people think that the Nazis are Christian, and they're occultists. They believe in the Golden Dawn.
They were still religious.
So there were certain. They were still religious, and they were still very much Christian. Just because they didn't practice your type of Christianity doesn't mean that they weren't Christian. You're wavering into no true Scotsman territory here.
There's a reason why the
you
first
can't be an occultist and a Christian because you have a different God. Now you can pretend
you
to be
absolutely
Christian.
can. You absolutely can. There was a reason why they were searching for the Spear of Destiny. There's a reason why the first treaty that they signed was with the Catholic Church. There's a reason why they had God on our side on all of their belt buckles. There's a reason why they celebrated Hitler as a minor god and likened him so much to Jesus, and why Easter was largely about him. Like there's a lot there, but the key here is that they were indeed religious, and the religion was a major part of what they did. It wasn't the whole deal, but it was a major part of the unification of that movement. And the same thing, if you want to take the Nazis out of it, sure, the KKK is definitely fucking Christian. So, like,
the KKK
at the end of the day,
derives their beliefs from the Masons. That's where their symbolism comes from. Are they evil? Absolutely.
The Masons are largely Christian.
They hide within the Christian church. They're not allowed in Lutheranism. They're not allowed in Orthodoxy. I don't think they're allowed.
They are largely
I understand.
Catholics will just
No, so the KKK is definitely a Christian organization, but also you're still wavering into the No True Scotsman territory. And I get that it's uncomfortable to realize that, these organizations, these groups are Christian and do in some sense represent your religion, even if it's a different sect of your religion. I get how you wouldn't want them to be representatives of your religion, but it's really hard for you to argue against them being part of the religion when they use Jesus Christ in order to advance their agenda. They burn crosses on the on the lawns of Black Americans, people of color, just in general. They regularly hold parades where they shout, "What is that? White man fight back." And shit like that. And they're using a white Christian nationalist at the very front of like memorializing him because he was a white Christian nationalist. I'm talking about Charlie Kirk for anybody that doesn't understand. Yeah. Charlie Kirk was a white Christian nationalist and everything. So they're steeped in the Christianity, and whether or not they're using it as a shield to protect them from criticism so that they can advance their white nationalist agendas, they're still part of your religion.
Listen, not everybody is in communion with all the churches. So while they are in the broad Christianity, sure, but I also don't believe in Pentecostalism. The KKK is largely found within the Baptist and Methodist, which are churches
none
that
of this
derive
actually,
from England.
Marie, I'm sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think you and I are about the same thing. I'm sorry to interrupt you so much, Marie, but like there are over 40,000 denominations of Christianity. Just because they're not your preferred flavor of Christian doesn't change the fact that they are Christian. And earlier on, John brought up the Catholic Church, which is a criminal organization that has been responsible for immense amounts of human suffering all around the world and does shuffle around pedophiles within their ranks to prevent them from being punished legally. They are, I think you'd be hard pressed to say that the Catholics aren't Christian, right? They're a type of Christianity. So like, these are the people.
So I don't really like the Catholics.
I don't care. They believe in the same book that you do, and they worship the same gods that you do, and they quote the same scripture that you do. They don't believe in the Bible.
They have extra books. They have
but they have the Bible too, right?
Yes, their extra books are in the Bible.
So
you have the Bible, and they have the Bible, and the Lord's Resistance Army has the Bible, and the KKK has the Bible, and the Nazis had the Bible, and all these other groups that you don't like have the Bible, and they're all reading the same Bible, and they're getting totally different messages out of it. And the only argument that you have against this is that they're doing your religion wrong, which is exactly what every other one of the 39,999 flavors of Christianity say about you. This is what we're talking about.
Sure. Directly
if
to
this
my face,
God was real,
sometimes.
if this God was real and worth a damn, he could have given you a book that could not be used to not only excuse slavery, but justify and continue and practice slavery. He would not have given you scripture that can be used this way, to demean and degrade women, to deny LGBT people of their rights, to be violently anti-trans and anti-gay. Like, all these other things that we see as indicative signs of rampant Christian nationalism in this country and around the world. So whether or not you like their denomination doesn't really have anything to do with this conversation. The point of the matter is, the whole thing that we're saying is that these are things that a religion, this one in particular, teaches people, and they wouldn't behave in these evil ways without this religion. We're willing to bet. And it doesn't just have to be Christianity. I guarantee that without Islam, there'd be a lot less people blowing themselves up right now. I guarantee that without Judaism, there wouldn't be a lot of people there wouldn't be a genocide going on in Gaza to preserve a national homeland for a particular ethnic group, right? We can kind of spread this shit around and say that these religions are causing major harm, and they aren't tied into a person's race or their identity or their ethnicity or their gender or any other thing. It's just this dogma that's being pushed upon them to tell them you're correct when you go out and oppress and hurt these people.
Are you familiar with the parable that says the grain will be gathered into the barn and the chaff will be burned? That is the explanation that we as, I'm a Lutheran, have to explain the false Christianity. Listen, the Catholic Church built idols to Roman gods until 1450.
Right.
Sure.
So, Marie, what I'm hearing,
Christians.
what I'm hearing from you is essentially a special pleading fallacy. Is what I'm interpreting, because you're saying that you somehow, or at least your sect of Christianity, has this special knowledge that solidifies your particular interpretation or your particular sect, your particular theology as being the correct one, and everybody else is wrong. And it's fine for you to have your own interpretation of of the Bible and of Christianity, and I if you've managed to implement that in a way that's not taking advantage of people or exploiting the gullible, more power to you. Progressive Christians, I think, is the way that Christianity needs to lean if it's going to survive at all in our current society. But the fact is that for the majority of Christian history, your view is a severe minority. And the rest of Christian history is filled with KKK cults. The rest of Christian history is filled with people enslaving young girls. The rest of Christian history is full of enslavement in general. So
was
you have to understand that your
Greek
interpretation
history,
is
Latin history,
relatively
and Native
new.
American history, and Mayan history, and Aztec history. I don't know if the Incas had slaves. I feel like they were running away from
those are ethnicities. Those are ethnicities, not religions.
But they
Marie.
also have
You're describing
religions
cultures.
that yes, but those cultures have their own religions, and in those religions they had slavery. Slavery is a human evil. We all, almost all of us do. Like almost all.
No, Marie, let's take a pause on that real quick with the slavery thing. Hold on, Marie. Let's take a pause on that with the slavery thing, because I agree. On a naturalistic view, slavery is a human evil. It's something that humans have done. But if you are a Christian, and I'm not exactly sure which sect of Christianity, I don't know if we've gone over that yet.
I'm a Lutheran.
You said Lutheran.
Lutheran. Okay, I'm so sorry. It's been a lot. That's my bad. But if you at all adhere to any part of the Old Testament, quoting the 10 Commandments or anything like that, then you would have to also acknowledge things like Leviticus 25, 44 through 46, that directly states that God gives the command of where they can purchase slaves. And then you've got Numbers 31, where God directly commands Moses to go in and unalive small children and babies and force young girls into sexual slavery. You've got so many examples that I could point to where God himself is directly commanding the taking of slaves and all of these, like what you would call human atrocities, human evil. God himself is actually commanding them.
So Jesus Christ brought the new covenant, and he does speak on slaves, but the thing that he says to the slaves is just it's to save their lives. It's slaves, obey your masters, and that is so
he doesn't say that. Paul does.
Okay, maybe it's sure. But at that time,
Marie,
if you were
why
a
did-
rebellious slave, they wouldn't allow
Marie.
you to have a different religion, and they could kill you.
Right, Marie, why didn't God just say don't own slaves? Why does he have strict rules for what kind of fabrics you can wear and how to plant your crops and how to shave your beard and what shellfish you can't eat and how to touch the skin of a dead pig and what kind of sacrifices to do and who you can and can't have sex with? And why does he have all these very specific rules, but at no point he doesn't say human beings aren't farming equipment? Like, I get that lots of cultures around the world have had slaves. That doesn't make slavery okay. And if you're claiming that, well, other people had, it's like no amount of slaves makes good slavery at all. This God, if this God is real, could have just said, don't own slaves, and would have been a remarkable revolution in religion that he was changing the whole world. No more slaves forever. But he didn't.
In your secular world, there's more slaves today than ever.
This is not a responsibility of secular world. This is I'm sorry. We're not spreading a religion. It's not how this works. And I'm sorry. Yes, there absolutely are more slaves today than there ever have been. I wholly agree with that. And it's an atrocity that's evil. I can sit here and say that is wholesale evil. And there's no reason that anyone should ever do it ever. But if you're going from the Bible, then you have to say, all right, well, yeah, God said to do it, but he didn't mean it that bad. And it was just a product of the time. And he was trying to protect and blah, blah, blah. I don't worship anybody who thinks slavery is a good thing, period. And I would like to stop slavery. I don't think it's contextual.
I'm kind of curious where Jesus
that
says,
on the way out of Egypt that Moses, and this is an Exodus, right as they're walking out of the Egypt, that's when Moses made slavery rules. I think that's very disheartening and was the exact, I mean, he was raised by the pharaohs and.
Yeah,
no. I'm sorry, you have a misconception. Yeah, you have a misconception there because it wasn't Moses that was making those rules. It was God that was directly commanding those rules.
Yeah, and in Exodus, when Moses lays out the rules of slavery, he says a few lines before that, these are the words of God. And then he talks about how you can beat your slave with a rod as long as they don't die within a couple of days, and how slaves can be passed down to your children as property. And he deals out different rules for Hebrew slaves versus non-Hebrew slaves. Whereas the Hebrew slaves, you have to let them go after 7 years unless you give them a wife and a child, in which case the wife and the child are your property forever. And if they want to keep their wife and child, then they have to also agree to be your property forever. Like, it's really fucking sadistic, the level of calculus that goes into this whole slavery thing as commanded by God. And so here's the thing. Yes, today there are lots of slaves. The world is certainly not secular, but the laws that prohibit slavery are. The laws that you live under that make your life livable are secular laws. If you were to try to obey the laws as listed out in the Bible, you would go to jail pretty fucking quick.
Sometimes when men are given a great task by God, sometimes they abuse that. And it's really their words, but they say it's from God anyway.
That's pretty good. Like, how do you discern between the two? How do you know that it's God? How do you know that it's men twisting God's words?
Oh, there's no true way to know. But
right, because they're in the same Bible.
Owning people.
They're in the same Bible. Right, they're in the same Bible, which is why we were saying earlier why the KKK, a Christian organization, reads the same Bible you do and believes in the curse of Ham, that all black people are naturally subservient to white people. That's why the Texas, when Texas seceded from the U.S. and joined the Confederacy, you can read the Declaration of Secession where they say explicitly that the enslavement of black people is the natural order of things as ordained by God, and every Christian nation would enshrine slavery as a holy thing. They were a Christian country. Okay, the Confederacy was a Christian country. So, like,
and if you,
it's
sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, John. No, you go. I've been rambling a bit.
No, that's fine. I was just gonna say, if you compare the laws concerning slavery in the South, like both pre and post the Confederacy, you'll notice that they sound exactly like the Old Testament laws concerning slavery. So, I mean, they were definitely using the Bible to derive their laws. Yeah.
Yeah. And when Jesus comes along, he says that not a jot or a tittle of that old law shall change until all things have come to pass and the apocalypse happens. He says, I've come not to change the laws of the prophets, but to fulfill them. He says that I'm not here to bring peace. I'm here to bring a sword and set brother against brother and son against father and the house against it. We just talked about all this stuff earlier. Like the same guy who says, love thy neighbor and their enemy, and he's just a total lamb of a person, also is the first. This is where we now get the idea of hell and all these other horrible things. And so, like, you've got a book, you've got this Iron Age sex and slavery manual, a book that is pro-slave front to back, is anti-woman front to back, is pro-genocide front to back, is just a pedophilic nightmare front to back, full of incest and rape and murder
on Earth at that time. How
but
did
your God could have done better.
To America?
Your God, then your God could have done better.
Trade that was set up in Africa.
Marie, your God could have done better. If your God is so fucking useless that he's limited by the evils of humanity, I don't see a reason to worship him or call him God, especially not considering the fact that the God of the Old Testament is an absolute monster that exceeds far beyond anything that the most evil human could ever hope for.
I think that's your interpretation. God gave us free will. And then he
Do you think that it's a good thing? Do you think that it's a good thing to drown the entire world, Marie?
You know, that was for the Nephilim, right? I don't believe that the entire world drowned.
What about all the
other flood stories? What about all the other flood stories?
Yeah, they suck. They suck. Fuck them too. That's why we said at the beginning, I'm not for any religion. We're just talking about yours because yours is the one that you're defending here, trying to separate it from all the ways that it's used for evil.
Yeah, all religions are. All cultures have been used for evil.
Marie, is your God omnipotent?
Human beings have free will. So
that
if you're going to say,
do you know what omnipotent means?
He's omnipotent, omnipresent. That doesn't mean he's going to choose to make gravity disappear or to intervene in human.
We're not talking about that. No. So what we're talking about is the fact that you claim that he was limited by what the Israelites would accept, but yet he's also all powerful. And also your claim that he was working within what they would accept doesn't explain all the very minute things like, how to build his temple. That's not something that would be naturally like, I feel like blueprints are not something that are like, what they would regularly like accept, like, and even if you want to distinguish that from like the moral laws, just like Forrest brought up earlier, he was very specific about what food you can eat, what kind of fabrics you can wear, how to cut your beards and all this other shit, even to the point of like whether or not there were railings on your roofs. Like they're very minute laws that are very unnatural and that he expected. You have to agree, in the Old Testament God and the New Testament God has an expectation that you will follow his rules, because in every instance where the Israelite people fall away and they stop following God's rules, God does something to make them pay for it. Either he pays mercenaries to come in, fuck them up, and create the diaspora, or he creates a sarlacc pit in the middle of the fucking desert and has them swallow up a whole bunch of people that were, causing problems. Like, in one way or another, God has directly made them pay for not following his rules. So there's no way that you can say that God had to work within what the Israelites would expect. Otherwise, God wouldn't have mandated that the Israelites eat bug shit off of the desert floor or whatever.
Manna?
Yeah, that's bug shit.
It's just what's frustrating to me. What people eat locusts today. It's a totally normal source of food for a huge amount of the world. What I'm trying to get across to you, Marie, is that what I'm trying to get across to you here, Marie, is that, like, yes, every religion and every culture has some good and some bad things in it. What you're trying to present to us here is some sort of a workaround that makes it acceptable for your religion to also have a lot of bad shit in it and be used for evil reasons. When all we're saying on this side is that there is not a single good thing that you can get out of your religion that you can't get without the religion. And if you get it without the religion, you don't have all of the evil shit tacked on there. You can now approach all the harms of the world and not have to slog through this swamp of what God may or may not want, when this God's sins far outweigh your own and, quite frankly, has no right to judge you in the first place. So here we are, with John and I advocating for a secular worldview where we can reason out what is right and wrong, use our best judgments about the reality that we all know we live in to try to make the world a better place. Probably fuck up sometimes, but certainly never make ridiculous excuses for slavery and torture and rape and genocide and all the other shit that you have to make excuses for if you believe in the Bible or lots of other religions, because in the Bible, God causes those things, allows for those things, or just does those things.
So in the modern day, the Missouri Synod Lutherans actually have help for trafficking victims.
Good.
And in the modern day, the Greek Orthodox Church also does, but I think you have to be freed first. I don't think they'll help you like the Lutherans will. They have one too.
That's great. It would be awesome if they
We are
didn't
not the
worship a
people
god.
who lived at the Bible time. We have become
It would be
better
awesome.
Christians.
It would be awesome if they didn't worship a god who, by your definition, is all-knowing and all-powerful, which means this god is directly in control of everything that happens in the world and could fix it but chooses not to, and also does not have the excuse of free will because he already knows what's going to happen with that free will and still made the world that he made it on purpose anyway. Like, at the end of the day, you can help people. That's wonderful. I'm glad.
Do you not like your free will? You don't have to believe in God.
I didn't say that at all. I didn't say that at all. What I said is that he doesn't have the excuse of free will if he is all-knowing and all-powerful. If I film a football game and I know everything that's going to happen in that football game, and then I press play on the tape and I say, if this team loses, I'm going to punish them. That doesn't make me just or righteous or anything. I already know what's going to happen. So if God already knows how I'm going to use my free will and still is going to punish me for it, then it's his fault that I'm doing whatever he doesn't like, not mine. He could have made things different, and theoretically, logically, he could have set up a system in which case we all use our free will to make the right choices, but he didn't. He made a world that's broken and stupid and evil.
He's not punishing you.
Through hell?
If you don't want to be...
Do you not believe in hell?
If you didn't want to be with God in this life, why would you want to be with God in eternity, Forrest? Isn't that what you want?
Do you not...
Freedom from God.
Do you not believe in hell? Do you not believe in hell?
Listen, I don't necessarily believe in Dante's hell.
Do you believe in a place where I am going to experience physical torture or some sort of actual pain for eternity?
Not necessarily. You could just not exist. Your immortal soul could just not exist anymore, which you don't want to be.
I would like.
Is Lutheranism
I would like to exist.
You would like to exist.
Yes, I would like to exist away from God.
I don't know. Have you tried applying to Folkrav or Valhalla? All cultures have a hell.
If your God's the one in control, I don't want anything to do with your evil God, and I don't want to be annihilated or tortured or anything like that. I would like to be left the fuck alone. Is there an application for that? Or does your God control everything because he's all-knowing and all-powerful?
If you don't want to be with God, your immortal soul dies. You won't feel anything. It's just what the atheist, you're in the ground and that's it.
So then
you got what you want.
So I walk into the bank with a gun and I say, listen, if you don't want to put the money in the bag, I can just kill you. You won't feel anything. It'll just be over. I'm the good guy, right? It's a mafia boss saying, pay me my protection money or I will hurt you. That's what you're describing here. I have to worship a God that I don't respect and would never follow with a good conscience. Otherwise, I'm punished with death. This God's sins far outweigh my own. He has no right to judge me. And also, I don't think he's fucking real.
But then
What you're offering me here is an
insult.
What you're offering me here, Marie, is an insult and a threat. What you're offering me here is an insult and a threat. Not love, not grace, not mercy, nothing.
No, I'm telling you that you're free to have free will and not accept God. That's why I haven't done any of that evangelical stuff. I'm not trying to convert you or anything. Because if that's not really what you want, if you want
I don't
to
understand
be a biological person and just a biological person, that will essentially be done for you. You know?
I don't understand how anybody. I don't understand how anybody would want to be with such a stupid, mean-spirited, cruel, egotistical asshole of a God. I don't respect him. I wouldn't respect him, and I don't understand why anybody does. And what you're offering me here is that you get to go live in some theme park because you worship this monster.
No. I don't know what happens after death. I don't know what happens after death.
Well, let me tell you.
We believe that we go to God.
A lot of fucking people believe in a real-ass hell and that I deserve to go there. And I know that isn't what you're saying, but frankly, if the heaven on offer, if whatever you're talking about that's being preserved for you is something that you can get to by doing apologetics for slavery and shit, like, I don't want to be a part of that either.
I didn't do apologetics for slavery. I said it was awful and human, and that Moses inserted his own.
You stuff. Also,
and the Hebrews
you have
are very
but hold on. Marie.
You admitted that you have no justification for doing that, and you only did so to hand wave away the fact that your religion is also culpable.
The people that worship the religion are culpable. God didn't make them do anything. We have free will.
The Bible is culpable. And if you want to throw away that part of the Bible, but keep the part of the Bible that says love your neighbor, you are only doing that because one of them is tasteful to you and the other one is distasteful to you. Which means the only foundation of your religious claims is your secular morality. Because if you were living 200 years ago, your religious morality would tell you that slavery is good. Your secular worldview, brought to you by secular reasoning and secular laws and secular ethics, has told you that bodily autonomy and human rights are important. That was a very new idea until we brought it up. And now you believe it and are willing to impose a secular understanding of human rights and dignity upon your religious worldview and claim that Moses was mistaken in putting his ego in this point of the Bible, which you have already admitted you have no evidence or basis for. You just decided. You're going to blame him for being egotistical and misinterpreting the rules of God, and then you're going to do the exact same thing? And tell me that I don't get to go to your magical fairyland when I die? I don't fucking want to go.
There is no magical
and I don't want to die either. I don't want to be a part of whatever your God has constructed, because any God that would allow for that kind of theology is a son of a bitch that I don't want to know.
And you don't have to, and you get the whole biorealism that you want.
Biorealism. I'm not sure. I don't know. Forrest, are you you go ahead.
No, you please. I've been talking for a minute.
Yeah. Are you?
Am I done? Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, I was going to ask if you're done. I'm kind of done with the conversation. I feel like we're just going around in circles. We've been saying the same shit for the past 15 minutes.
Yeah, we can be done, definitely.
No, Marie, I don't want to stop existing. I'm having a fun time existing. So I do believe that I don't have a soul, and I do believe that when I'm dead, I'm just dead. But if I had a chance to continue on doing stuff, I'd be into it for at least a little while longer. It sounds like fun. Your God is depriving me of that because I'm not worshiping his feet while he tramples on me. Sorry, I'm not a fan of this dogma.
Then why don't you try a different
because
God?
according to you, Because I have, we covered earlier, I haven't found any kind of religion, any semblance of a God that I would respect. Any God that is in charge of a universe like this and a world like this is a fucking monster. Either he is evil or he is useless, and I'm not going to follow it.
Okay, well then that rules out all religions.
Yes, it does. Because as we established from the beginning of this conversation, when you first asked us, do you think all religions are bad? Yes. I don't agree with any religions, and I think that religion is a net harm because it makes people believe this heinous, horrible shit and make excuses like the excuses you've been making on this call. I think you're a good person, Marie, and I think that you're in a moral pretzel defending a God that doesn't deserve your attention.
Well, the church saved my life, so
Okay. Well,
Anyway,
Marie, I think that we're gonna be we're gonna be going here in just a second, but I did want to get one last thing
you
out.
definitely should take other calls.
Oh yeah, totally. But what I do want to say is that trans rights are not special privileges; they are equal rights. That's why we call them equal rights. And so I think that maybe you should try to change that particular.
Trans people aren't in the Bible.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
There's no trans people in the
Jane, you called in yesterday and you wanted to talk about how trans rights are special privileges over other people that deserve equal rights, and I just wanted to say that no, they're not, and fuck you.
Yeah, that's we can see on the call screen the last time you call in and the name you use and the all that stuff. I was trying to give you the benefit of the doubt for what you said. Maybe it was a mix-up, but man, I'm not dealing with that shit.
No, sorry. Yeah, I know that kind of seemed to come out of left field. I really just wanted it to be like, boom, say the thing, because I don't think that kind of opinion deserves to be platformed whatsoever. It doesn't deserve a discussion. So I just kind of wanted to get that out there, and maybe I don't know. Anyways.
Yeah. Now we can see when you call in, by the way, for people out there watching, we see the name you give us and what you want to call in about. It also shows the last time you called in and the name you used and all that. So, and Marie, Jane, whoever called in with a phone number, not the web caller. So it definitely, unless somebody else has that exact 7-digit string of numbers, maybe she was using a spoof. Maybe, who knows? It could have been somebody different. I'm willing to think that it might not have been. I don't know. But either way, fuck, man. It's weird that that's the arguments that we have to have. It's like, well, everybody did slavery. Neato. My God's all powerful and all knowing. But I mean, fuck, man. What's he going to do? Stop slavery? Come on. Guy can create the whole universe in a week. Guy can whip up humans out of mud. Guy can make fucking birds out of the ocean. Stopping slavery, though. Come on. Between that and chariots of iron, you're asking too much. We've got 3 callers left. All 3 are atheists, and all 3 have been waiting for like 2 fucking hours. So we're going to plow through these, and then we'll start doing super chats, and we'll wrap up this show. John, I'll leave it up to you. Do you have one that you want to take right away?
I figure we'll just start with the one that's been waiting the longest, right?
Let's do it. Randy, calling in from Washington's anal beads.
That is exactly where I'm calling in from.
Yes. Randy, you're on the line with Forrest and John. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. If I was doing any better, I'd be twins. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing all right.
Doing good.
Good. So my hypothesis, topic of discussion, question thing here. I've been teaching music for over 20 years. And as I look back on all of my students, it seems to me that those students who did the best were the students who did experience the Dunning-Kruger effect. They had this overconfidence when they first started playing guitar or learning music, whatever form they're doing, and they kind of went through that whole thing. And as I've been thinking about this, it seems that early part of Dunning-Kruger might be this concept that keeps us moving forward. Because if you don't get a sense of accomplishment when you first start learning something, you're very likely to give up. And then when you get to the later part of the Dunning-Kruger effect, where a lot of times where a person has developed expertise, they tend to underestimate their abilities. I feel like that could kind of tie in here, where that keeps you interested in learning. You're like, okay, I don't know enough about this yet. And so I want to keep learning, even though most people would look at that and say, gosh, this person really knows a lot about what's going on. And so it seems like it's this kind of...
Randy?
Go ahead.
I feel like...
Yeah.
So, sorry, is there any way that you could take us off speakerphone and maybe move a little bit closer? It's just a little hard to hear.
It sounds like you are in a cave.
Oh, sorry about that. Is this better?
God, yes.
Okay, great. Apologies. Should I start over, or did you catch that?
No, I heard it. It was just wild.
Okay. And so I'll move forward from there. So the way I was thinking this might tie in on a more evolutionary perspective is the same thing would occur with having children. And I think that John is a father, but Forrest is not. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so John will certainly know, and I'm sure Forrest can imagine, that the first time you have a baby, you don't know what's going on. You're completely clueless. But within a couple of days, you start to get this sense of, oh, it means this when she cries like that, and you start to get this confidence. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I guess I didn't want you to get too far down this path, but like I'm the oldest of 4, and like I helped my mom take care of my younger siblings. So like I've had extensive, like, I guess, mediated training in that particular respect. So like I mean, I guess I was more confident, but that's because I had more experience taking care of children when I had my child. So it's not exactly going to be a 1-to-1 with your thing here.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. But I think the point kind of still stands that when you start taking care of children, you don't know what you're doing at first. But you need this kind of sense of accomplishment and confidence to continue raising the children. And then again, as you get to the later stages where your kids are teenagers and you know a lot about parenting, and then you're like, you kind of feel like, I don't know what I'm doing here. And that keeps you, again, interested in continuing to understand how you're moving forward. And so as a question, I'm just wondering if, from a biological perspective, this could make sense that this Dunning-Kruger effect is in place, because it does keep us learning and it keeps us moving forward.
My wife texted me to argue that it's actually quite easy to raise children. And what she texted was, just feed it, don't eat it. Babies is easy.
That's the little note that all atheists have to keep on their desks. Like,
of parenthood could be argued as being more nuanced than that.
Friend, not food. Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, I don't know any way that you could test such a thing. I think it's a fun way of looking at it, and it's it would make a great motivational speech. You know what I mean? If you want to go tell somebody, hey, you have to get through that initial stage. But like, as far as like an actual scientific question, I don't know what that would look like or how to test such a thing. I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay. Like I said, it's something I've been thinking about, just wanted to discuss. Go ahead, John. Sorry.
Right. No, that's fine. I did want to say, I didn't know anything about it either. My brain started formulating possible explanations for your question at the very beginning of the show tonight, but I did like feed it through an LLM, a large language model, to get some kind of thing. There have been some scientific studies done on this particular like field, I guess, like the Dunning-Kruger effect. Is it evolutionary beneficial or whatever? And I'm not going to sit here to claim that I am, all that even more informed or anything like that. But it does seem like, considering that we're a social species, and where this is the Dunning-Kruger is more about the overconfidence that you talked about, and humans' competition for resources, as well as the perception of somebody that is overconfident in a social species, that does have some factor in it. But I mean, ultimately, I think that though that it's kind of a situation of a broke clock's right twice a day kind of thing, where like,
Okay.
Dunning-Kruger can help you in some respects, but I think there's going to be a breaking point where it's no longer beneficial in that. And I think that we've kind of gotten in our society now, like, like when you're younger and you're being overconfident, like in your music classes and everything like that, that might help for a little bit. But, at some point there's a breaking point where you begin to understand that what you don't understand, and I think that it's at that you can start to more, to better traverse, the landscape of whatever, you're talking about, and you can better inform people.
And that makes a lot of sense. And it seems like a lot of people who don't get that sense of overconfidence are less likely to get to the point where they're like, oh, I really don't understand this, and so they don't tend to get as far. That's I think what kind of triggered this for me, looking back on my years of teaching.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely something to be said for like confidence and silliness and the willingness to make mistakes. There's a lot to be said here about society and the way that we treat, especially young girls, as the way that we make them think that they have to be perfect or otherwise not show up. There's something to be said for the way that we partition resources and allow for people to have the opportunities to try new things and explore new ideas and all things. Now that ties into education and property taxes. There's a lot of stuff here, but like, as far as like the direct answer to your question, I don't know, again, like, if there's a way to test it or if it's just a cool idea. I think it's a cool idea. I know, all credit to you. I think it's a cool idea. And I think it would make a great speech if you want to write it up and go give it to a high schooler, something like that. But
well, basically, I've kind of done that with my students as I see them kind of getting past that cockiness phase. I'm like, hey, here's something that just happened, and here's what I think is going on. And I found that kind of helped my students to be like, oh, that actually makes a lot of sense. So
yeah,
like I said, just something that's been on my mind. So wanted to run it past you guys.
It's fun. Yeah, it's a fun idea. I like it. It's fun to think about. I don't know for sure if there's any actual real scientific validity to it, and I don't even know how I would check that. But I do think that it's neat and it's fun to talk about. And like I said, I think it would be a very motivational idea for somebody who needs to hear it.
Solid. All right. Well, thanks for your time, guys. I'll let you get on to other people. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that there are some scientific studies out there, if you just go and look for them, about the Dunning-Kruger effect and possible benefits to it. So I would just I would limit yourself to to like actual scientific like journals and things of that nature. Don't just read some asshole's blog.com or Substack rather. Definitely
if
just
that's
look at
not
more
already
of the
a
scientific.
website, it needs to be.
True
But
story.
yeah, I would just look into like the research surrounding Dunning-Kruger just in general to see if if you get any kind of if you can glean any kind of information from that. Again, I am definitely not. Forrest is more adept at that particular field than I am as far as like evolution, like what evolutionary benefits there would be. So if he doesn't know, I sure as hell am not going to know.
I don't know anything about anything. I'm
Sounds
incredibly
good.
stupid. I'm just here for the fun.
Rock on.
All right.
All right.
Well, thank you.
You guys have a great
Thank you
day.
so much, Randy. You too. Thank you for waiting for so long. Take
You
care.
bet.
Let's now talk to Pip. They, them calling in from undulating kangaroos. Pip, you're on the line with Forrest and John. How you doing?
Hello. Yes, I shall accept undulating kangaroos, though I was expecting unruly kangaroos, but hey, whatever works.
Hey.
Anyway,
it depends on if they're dancing or calm.
Yeah. I shall get straight to the point in that when I was in high school in the mid-2000s, there was a speculative evolution design of Troodon, which was thought to, if the dinosaurs hadn't gone extinct, then it would have evolved into something looking more like humans. And to my mind, it looks more like a grey alien, but either way, it's definitely humanoid. And so this has got me thinking, why did humans evolve, upright bipedalism, and what conditions would be needed for it to evolve again?
Yeah, so when we look at like human bipedalism, there's a few different hypotheses that are kind of at play here. We're not 100% sure like this is the one reason why it happened, right? But we can point to a few things that it definitely does for us. Number one, the one hypothesis is that it allowed us to stand upright and look above the grass and see predators coming in. Not great. One hypothesis that I thought was the funniest was a Darwinian hypothesis that it was so that husbands could have their arms free to carry provisions home for their wives, which is hysterical to think about, but not too far off when you think about the idea that we use tools and we need to carry shit, whatever. We can't use our teeth the way that other things can to drag stuff. But really, the one thing that we can see for fucking sure is that over and over and over again, it leans into tool making and the use of our hands to do fine motor skills and fine technical skills. So you see like, the fact that we have so many more nerve endings packed into our fingers and are able to do such intricate, tiny little things with our fingers that we could never do with our toes, and even our arms, the way that they're able to be much more precise than we are able to do with our legs. Like those kinds of things really play a big part into it. So if you were to have something else that wanted to become bipedal, totally theoretically, because there's a suite of very specific selection pressures that have to go in here. Number one is it needs to be as close to a primate as you can possibly get it. It has to be something that's able to manipulate the environment and make tools, almost certainly something that has fingernails rather than claws. And then you need to start leaning it way, way hard into fine motor skills and hunting. Another thing that was really great for human bipedalism is the fact that it made us better long distance runners. It's more energetic for us to run this way. Also, it puts more of our body up, getting hit by the breeze, which cools us down. Like there's a lot of shit like that that plays into it quite a bit. So like just a lot of things that go into the way that we are and what we do would have to be damn near identical. And I want to put a massive fucking asterisk on the end of all of that and say that all of that comes with massive exceptions. I just mentioned hunting, right? Well, fucking, we were walking upright in some way before we started hunting. You know what I mean? And so, like, and also long distance running. Well, we were walking up some way before we even were out of the fucking trees. And so, like, there's big asterisks there where it's like, here's something we talk about, like facilitated bipedalism, Ardipithecus ramidus. Ardipithecus ramidus probably stood upright, but it didn't have a big toe that was in line with its foot like we did. It had a wide, grasping big toe like an orangutan had. So it's much more likely that it was walking short distances on the ground, or maybe it was walking in the branches, holding a branch above its head and walking with its feet underneath. And like it was just using the bipedalism to get between trees. Like there's a million things like that where we can say like, okay, this is a benefit at this time, and then we leaned way the fuck into it a few million years later. So like I'm saying, there are a bunch of different characteristics that need to be very, very closely replicated to get there. I wouldn't hold your breath on it happening anytime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is a tendency to have a particular anthropomorphism bias when it comes to, speculative evolution. And that is exactly why we, create things like gray aliens as being almost completely humanoid, save for some very distinct characteristics, because this is what we associate with being, civilization and all that. This is what we recognize as, being quote unquote advanced. And it's this particular bias
that is, perhaps pushing us to imagine what if other creatures, became bipedal. And while it's not necessarily a bad thing, I think it's, really interesting. I'm actually really curious as to why it would be the exclusive domain of primates that would, become bipedal, beside the fact that they're close to it, or as it is. Because
it isn't.
There's a lot going on with the selection pressure.
Yeah. It isn't the exclusive domain of primates to be bipedal. We can look at other bipeds, like a lot of birds, especially ratites, like ostriches and emus and things like that, where the selection pressures are different. You just need like really powerful running and kicking muscles because you live on a huge plain environment, or don't, because cassowaries exist, and so it's like just there's a million things there that you could lead into this with. I'm just saying the most important thing is I think selection pressure against using your hands to walk is bigger than selection pressure for using your legs or your back legs this way. Because that's kind of what I see when I look at human evolution, is a lot more of that being a major part of it. But hey, that's just me, and I'm probably missing something very stupid and very obvious, and Erica will tell you why I'm wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll probably call back whenever she's on to get more details. So, if I don't know if you've seen the document, I'll keep this short. I don't know if you've seen the documentary called "The Future Is Wild," which is like a big speculative evolutionary documentary about what Earth wildlife will be like millions of years in the future. But I, for one, welcome our forthcoming squid overlords, because humanity is fucked.
It's gonna only get weirder and weirder. I agree. Anyway, take care of yourself, Pip. Thanks for waiting for so long. See you later.
No problem. Thanks.
All right, we got one left. We got Riley,
all right.
any and all pronouns, calling in from the frozen wastelands of Canada, who has questions about mRNA vaccines. Riley, you're on the line with Forrest and John. How you doing today?
I've never been better. How about y'all? Am I coming in clear?
Yeah, you're just fine.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. I should probably preface that I don't really have any position on this, and I'm here to ask questions. My cup is empty. My spongy brain is dry, malleable, even.
Okay.
So I guess
what questions do you have?
We should probably start out with like a basic understanding, just so we're on the same page. What is a vaccine? Because I have a definition up here, but I don't know if it's the colloquial definition or if it's like a scientific proper definition.
Yeah, so a vaccine is just a thing that it is an antigen is what a vaccine is. It is something that you put into the body in order to trigger an immune response that then causes you to develop antibodies or artificial immunity towards whatever the antigen that you introduced was. And so, traditionally, that is either a dead or a weakened or a incorrect species of a virus that kind of mimics the virus that you're trying to get to. But it can also be done for bacteria and other stuff. You're introducing that. Nowadays, you can also use just part of whatever pathogen, or a little bit, in this case, of the mRNA of that pathogen. And so you have just some piece of some pathogen that you want immunity to, that you're introducing to your body in a safe way in order to trigger an antigen response, an immune response that then causes you to develop antibodies for that thing. It is exactly what would happen if you were just infected with that pathogen. You have the exact same kind of response to it. That's the key. The difference is that you are not also simultaneously trying to fight off that pathogen. And so it's like driver's ed. You're doing the exact same thing that you would be doing while you're driving, but you're not also currently trying not to crash your car while learning how to operate it, right? You're going through the same motions just before it's dangerous. And that's what a vaccine is.
Pretty good analogy. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I think the next follow-up question, because that's like my basic understanding of things like the MMR vaccine, measles, mumps, and rubella, where it takes a little bit of a weakened or dead virus in order to trigger an immune response so that the body can recognize, oh, this is what we need to do.
Yeah. So it's
how would
like
that compare
it's like
to
a wanted poster.
Oh, sorry.
Right? It's like a wanted poster, right? You're putting up a picture of this thing in your body, and then the body is able to identify that picture really fucking well. So that way, whenever you see the real thing, you already have the antibodies ready to kill it or target it to be killed.
Cool. Yeah. I'm glad my body can do that, honestly. So
tight.
how would that compare to an mRNA vaccine? You know?
Yeah.
Because to my knowledge, it is using mRNA. It's not using anything to do with the virus itself.
Correct. So the way this works is that mRNA or messenger RNA, it has one job, and that is to attach itself to a ribosome, which then codes for the building of a protein. So mRNA is broken down to 3-letter it's a genetic code. It's a DNA. It's a not a DNA. Pardon me. It's a genetic sequence of these individual letters. Each block of 3 letters is what we call a codon, and that codes for a particular amino acid. And so it gets into a ribosome, which is a little organelle in your cell, and it reads that mRNA. And for every 3 codons it reads, it grabs an amino acid over here and puts it together and sticks another one and another one and another one. And these beads on a string of amino acids then fold up, and they're what become proteins. And so this is what we call the central dogma of biology, right? And so what's happening here is that a virus has different parts. It's got genetic instructions in the middle. And you can kind of think of like a virus, sort of like just the floating, like the nucleus of your cell almost. It's got instructions in the middle, and then it's got a little protein packet surrounding that. And then it's got a membrane around the outside, just like your cells have a membrane around the outside. And that outer membrane is studded with little proteins that are used to bind and attach to the cells in your body and allow that virus then to get into those cells, release its genetic material, and hijack your cellular machinery to make more of itself. And so those little proteins on the outside, those have to be built. And you need mRNA going through a ribosome to build those little proteins on the outside, just like any other protein. That's the mRNA that are in these vaccines. So that little protein on the outside of the cell, that the whole job of that thing is to attach itself to one of your cells and try to allow this specific virus in. It can't do anything else, right? Is coded for by this strip of mRNA. So we inject that mRNA into you. Your cells then make those proteins because that's what they're supposed to. It's all they're for. And then you have these proteins floating around, useless, doing nothing. They can't hurt you in any way. All they do is attach to a cell and say, "Do you want to let a virus in, please?" But there's no virus there to let in, right? But your body recognizes that these proteins are foreign. They're not from you. They're not anything that your body has ever seen before. So your body assumes that they're a threat, which is what your body does. They are now what we call an antigen, something that triggers an immune response. And so your body develops antibodies, which are little other proteins that attach to these guys and signal for white blood cells to come and gobble them up. Or they deactivate them, they destroy them, whatever. Antibodies do a whole bunch of cool shit. And you now have these antibodies in storage in your body for a long time. You are now prepared. Your body is trained that if you see these proteins, fuck them up. And so when you're exposed to the real virus, the virus has these proteins all over it. And your body's like, "Hey, fucking this guy in here, kill that guy." And you're really good at killing it, which is why it reduces the rate at which you are able to contract the virus. If you do contract the virus, it reduces the rate at which the virus can hurt you. And it also reduces the rate at which you're then going to spread it around. So it reduces every part of this virus being a bad thing because you're able to identify it and kill it way fucking faster before it can get into your cells and cause a lot of damage. Does that make sense?
Okay. I think so. So to summarize, the RNA I say summarize, but I'm trying to like gauge if my understanding is correct. The RNA or the messenger RNA is basically it is injected into your body, and it talks to your cells and says, hey, build these proteins. And the cells willy-nilly builds proteins, but your body's never seen these proteins before. So you keep mentioning the wanted poster. Those are memory cells that you're talking about, right? The ones that like
in this
recognize.
case, yeah, I think so I'm not great at immunology because there's 50 different cells that do these things. I think that would be dendritic cells in this case, but I could be wrong about that.
Immunology is so fascinating. But yeah,
it's fucking dense.
So and then so there's all these proteins, and then it develops, because it doesn't recognize these proteins, it develops what was it? Antibodies?
Antibodies.
That was the
Yep.
phrase?
Antibodies. Yeah, antibodies. And
Writing
they
that
are
down.
weird little, like, antibodies kind of look like a capital Y. And you have a specific antibody for every single possible pathogen that you ever come into contact with. And so what they do is they bind.
Like
Yeah. So the way that proteins work, what gives a protein its function is its super duper specific shape. So think about it kind of like a key. Like all keys pretty much look the same, but the very specific jaggedy edge on the side of the key is what makes it effective for one particular kind of lock, right? And so all these antibodies look the same, but there's one particular binding complex on them that allows them to attach themselves to one particular kind of pathogen. And what they can do is they can bind that pathogen and stop it from being effective. They stop it from being able to get into your cells, stop from being able to do whatever it is. But mainly, the number one job they do is they signal your macrophages, your white blood cells, the killer parts of your immune system, to come in there. And they're like big warning lights saying, hey, come eat this thing. And then your immune cells come in and kill that thing.
Okay.
And you have a different one for every single thing you do. And so when you get any vaccine, you're developing antibodies for that pathogen. In this case, rather than giving you a bunch of spike proteins or a dead or weakened version of the virus, it's pretty fucking easy to just whip up a shitload of this mRNA and just put it into people, and then your body does the rest.
Okay, so it's not necessarily attacking the virus, unlike with like MMR, where it sees the virus and then it goes to attack it. It's attacking, or the antibodies are attaching to the COVID's proteins, the COVID's external proteins, and then that's it's alerting your immune system.
Yeah, and when any other virus, it's going to be doing the same thing. So an antibody isn't going to be able to see a whole virus. It's going to pick out a particular part, probably one of those proteins around the outside. And so you have things like influenza, for example, has multiple types of different spike proteins, different proteins that are studding its cell membrane there. And so there's several different things that you could be developing antibodies for, like 3 or 4 different types of antibodies for the same type of virus. It's just the whole thing is just any way that you can identify this one particular pathogen. And they can be for there are vaccines for bacteria as well. Just any way that you can identify this motherfucker right here. And that's the thing that we're going to kill every time we see it from now on. And you can compare that, speaking of bacteria, you can compare that to antibiotics. Antibiotics are something, there are some vaccines that you take after you get infected, but they're relatively a lot more rare. Usually you would get a vaccine before you are at risk of getting infected to preempt it, to build that immunity beforehand. Antibiotics are after you get infected with a bacteria, then you would take those things, and they work in one of two ways. They're either bactericidal, which means they directly kill the bacteria, or way cooler, bacteriostatic. They stop the bacteria from reproducing so that your body can go in and gobble them up and kill them. And then you have, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, you may have longer immunity from that, but I don't remember off the top of my head, and I'm not going to tell you that because I don't know for sure. Go fact check me on that. But yeah, it's all just hijacking your immune system and making it work better. That's all it is. And that's why it's so stupid whenever you hear anti-vaxxers talking about natural immunity, right? They don't know what they're saying. Like the immunity that you are born with, the innate immunity, is just things that can't possibly infect you. And when you talk about natural immunity being like, I'm going to go out and get these viruses and be infected and let my body build up a strong immune system and all this bullshit buzzwords they say, all they're talking about is the exact same thing that would happen if they were to be vaccinated, only they're also at risk of dying or spreading this around or whatever else. They take on all the harm, all the risk of harm to get the same effect, oftentimes much weaker effects as well, because we have no way of predicting how this, the natural effects are going to be. It's totally dependent on how severe the infection was. Meanwhile, a vaccine is controlled, regulated, tested. We know what the fuck it's going to do. And it's going to keep you safe in the long term. It's going to be more effective as well.
Yeah. Like using your example with like driver's ed,
Yes.
like why
you could
like natural
you could just go get on the freeway,
like not going through driver's ed. Yeah, you could probably learn it on the fly.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Get up there on the freeway, get in enough wrecks, and pretty soon you'll stop doing it. Like that's the natural immunity that anti-vaxxers want. You know what I mean?
Okay. Honestly, that sounds way less scary than what I've heard. What I've just heard a lot of people who induce panic say. I've honestly, your explanation is the first time I've heard of the phrase messenger RNA. I've always heard manufactured RNA, which sounds a lot scarier.
Yeah, that's an anti-vaxxer. Yeah, it's an anti-vaxxer dog whistle. Here's a fun fact. You have mRNA in like every one of your cells right now, all the time, because it's what is just part of the process. DNA is the long-term storage for genetic information, and then that gets transcribed into RNA, which is then translated into proteins. mRNA is also sometimes called mature. The M stands for messenger, but like you have a mature strand of mRNA is what then goes out of your cell and actually codes for proteins. Almost all of your cells do this. The only ones that don't are the ones that don't have nuclei, which are red blood cells. But like damn near every single cell in your body, it has mRNA in it and is doing this shit all the time. And same with just about every other kind of cell, every other animal cell, every other eukaryotic cell. So plants, animals, fungi. When it comes to viruses, there are actually 6 different classes of viruses based on what kind of genetic material they use. So some viruses use DNA like you and I use. Some of them only have RNA. And that RNA can be written forwards or backwards. Plus sense or minus sense is what we call that. So like, for example, the flu is a class 5 virus, which means it has minus sense single-stranded RNA. So it's got single strand of RNA and it's written backwards. So whenever it gets into your body has to first write the RNA in the correct direction and then make proteins and recreate the virus, which opens it up to a ton more mutations, right? One of the reasons why you need a new flu shot every single year. Meanwhile, COVID is a class 4 virus. It has plus sense RNA. So that RNA gets into your cell, directly makes proteins right away. Yet another fun thing, because anti-vaxxers say, though, the COVID is just a flu. It's literally a different classification of virus. Totally fucking different. It is as much the flu as HIV is the fucking flu, because HIV is a class 6 virus. So if we can go one away from the flu and call it the same thing, I guess fucking AIDS is the flu too. But it's just so stupid. But yeah, that's how it works. It's just the way a lot of idiots out there will say that.
Go ahead.
And I think what was this fucking I think yesterday, I'm trying to remember the person that they played on thing yesterday, and I don't remember who it was, but Owen played a clip yesterday. We had a caller calling in about vaccines, and they played a clip of some fucking anti-vax lunatic saying that all vaccines give you AIDS, and it's crazy.
Yeah, I've never heard of that, and I hope to never hear it again. But I have unfortunately experienced the depths of anti-vax arguments, and have unironically heard people compare AIDS to the flu rather similarly.
Yep.
So,
it's just
great to know that they don't know what they're talking about. That's reassuring, you know.
Yeah, and the other, but speaking of AIDS, oddly enough, the biggest, scariest thing that people say about mRNA is that it's going to change your DNA, that it's going to get in and change your genetic code somehow. That's something you're probably going to hear a lot if you're talking to anti-vaxxers. And just so you know, class 6 viruses like HIV, they use a protein called reverse transcriptase to write their genetic code into yours. So that's the reason why HIV is so fucking hard to cure, because when you contract it, it literally does change your DNA, and you could eradicate every single one of these viruses from your body. You now have the virus code in your DNA. You will make more of them, right? That's why treatments for HIV, it doesn't cure it. It makes it non-detectable, meaning it suppresses it so much that you can't detect it in your body anymore. You just destroyed so many of them, and your DNA is trying to make more, but you can't. And so when we talk about the COVID vaccines, we're talking about mRNA, which cannot get back into your nucleus where your DNA is in the first place. So it can't even get around to where your DNA is. And even if it somehow magically could, doesn't have that reverse transcriptase protein to encode into your DNA. And even if it fucking could, it's mRNA, which doesn't do that, right? So like, just the argument that it's going to change your DNA is a very, very common one. And all it shows is that this person doesn't know what the fuck, and I mean this sincerely, what literally anything about this is.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's bringing me back because around the height of like the whole fear in regards to the mRNA vaccine, I was hearing random pseudoscience on both sides of the debate.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we should be looking into this because this could be the key to rapid evolution. You and I could grow wings in the future by changing our DNA. And and that's all the fear that we just talked about it. And it's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's people a lot funnier knowing that it's just proteins.
Yeah, people got it confused with there's something called CRISPR-Cas9, which is hijacking the immune systems of bacteria, actually, in order to do gene editing. And so you have this Cas9 protein that you are able, it's literally like a molecular pair of scissors that you can just send it in, code it to a particular gene, and it goes in and it'll just fucking cut that shit out. And that's very promising. There are some cool, I think they are still testing that on things like HIV now, where you can literally go in and cut out AIDS. You can go in and cut out cancer. You can go in and cut out all sorts of genetic disorders. And it's really fucking cool. And yeah, there have been some people who took that and are like, oh, well, now we can make sure that we just edit the genes of everybody and make sure everybody has, really good hair and great musical acumen, and they can jump 10 feet high and whatever else. And a lot of people then take that and apply that to every other fucking biology thing they don't understand. And it's, we can use mRNA to change your DNA, to change your TNA, and we'll all have a great spring break. And like, it's just nonsense.
That sounds
if you're
amazing to be able to cure all of those, because holy, that would be astonishingly great. But that also sounds like, unfortunately, extremely close to eugenics, where we're trying to get the best genes that's humanly possible.
So the woman who invented the CRISPR-Cas9 system that we have today, she reported a little while after she did it, she had a nightmare of Hitler with the face of a pig telling her that he's very interested in her research and he wants to make better humans and shit. And that's the scary thing. And the debate rages on about the ethics of that kind of manipulation, because there's a big fucking difference between talking about, can we cure a disease, and can we just make humans better? And it's a weird conversation, because if we're talking about, can we make sure my baby has the right skin color and eye color and shit? Okay, why the fuck would you do that? Like, that's issue, right? But if the conversation is, I can make sure my kid will never have asthma and will never have a heart disease, and okay, well, why wouldn't you want to do that? That sounds really good. And you have this weird situation where, for lack of a better word, you're playing God, and people have to argue about that. And in my opinion, most of that is no difference than any other medical intervention we have today. You could argue that the fucking polio vaccine was playing God and eugenics, because we were making sure that all of these people that would have otherwise died didn't. And there we were doing reverse eugenics, but that would just be fucking dumb to say. And so if we can make humans healthier and happier and live longer and all these things, I'm all for it. When you argue about making humans into better humans, that's where we have this issue. I think you're asking great questions, and you would have a lot of fun if you got into some biomed.
Maybe I would.
Yeah.
I do think that we've kind of unfortunately taken the conversation away from John. Sorry to do that to you. But I'm glad that we have like a good grounding of what like the mRNA vaccine is, you know?
John, do you want to tell us something about software really quick while we're here?
Sorry.
I don't know how that could work in here, but
yeah, we got time for one more quick thing, and then we got to move on to super chats.
Right. I did want to get into the second part of the question, which was the validity of enforcing and or mandating vaccines.
Okay. What about it?
So now that we have a good general basis that this vaccine is about as harmless as all the others, and there is a lot of panic around it, is it good to mandate and or enforce these vaccines? Here in Canada, I know that was done to a rather large extent. Like, you could lose your job if you didn't get it, that kind of thing. And I want to hear the opinions and reasons of the people on the line.
Sure.
Hopefully this can rope John into things as well. Sorry.
Yeah. I would say that, like, we already here in the US, vaccines against things like meningitis are already necessary for public schools. And that's an amazing thing because they are safe, they are effective, they save lives. And just like any medicine ever, forever, every single medicine, period, has side effects, and some of those side effects will be bad, and in a small percentage of the population, some of them will be very bad. That is always true of every medicine ever, period. But when we look at the risks associated with meningitis, just how quickly it can kill someone, especially a young person, and just how ravenously it spreads through these tight, close-packed environments like a school with a bunch of filthy, unwashed teenagers running around. Oh my glob, to say that the risks outweigh, the rewards outweigh the risks. It's such an understatement. It's like calling fucking World War II a disagreement. It's ridiculous to say just something so simple. And so when I look at all these other vaccines, like, yeah, I'm all in favor of saying if you want to participate in XYZ thing, you need to make sure that you are protected in these ways. Do I think that we should have a vaccine mandate that every single person must be vaccinated, period, forever? Probably not, right? But like, if you want to be in the military, you need to be vaccinated. And that's not even remotely controversial at all. That's been the case forever. If you want to have certain government jobs where you're around a lot of people, you need to be keeping those people safe. If you want to be a fucking doctor and you're going to be around sick people all day, you need to make sure that you're not going to be a carrier of these illnesses. If you're going to be a teacher or a student and you're going to be around cramped quarters full of vulnerable people, you need to be making sure those vulnerable people are protected. If you're going to work in like hospice care or nursing home or something like that, you're among extremely vulnerable populations who are probably immunocompromised and can't get this vaccine for themselves. You need to be the line of defense for them. And so in the same way that you would then make sure that someone can't come to work when they're drunk, and someone can't come to work when they're sick, and someone needs to wear a mask and wear gloves and all these other things that are all infringing on your freedoms, yeah, you need to make sure that your immune system's up to date if you're going to be around these vulnerable people who could be severely hurt by what to you may sound like a simple cold, but to them is a life-threatening illness. John, do you agree?
Yes.
There you go.
Well,
John gets literally one word in this call.
My main concern would be herd immunity and how that just helps protect everybody in general, and it helps stamp out diseases. I think compromised herd immunity is what's we're seeing right now with like measles cropping up, and I believe meningitis. There's a few meningitis cases, I believe, up in the Northeast somewhere, and it's because people have started to refuse to get vaccinated. And I think that there are people that are being misinformed by certain Weezykins, the house elf of Trump, that and they're not using proper science. And so I would emphasize on the herd immunity aspect of it, but also everything that Forrest said.
Yeah, I think the most important thing to take away from this, Riley, when we're talking about this stuff, is that, and this is not an argument, this is not a dog on you. Like, this is not a dig against you in any way. I just want you to consider it because a lot of people don't. Just think about your air conditioner right now. When you hear about heat waves and global climate change that's causing people to die of heat-related illnesses, it's kind of a vague, ethereal thing to think about because I'll just go inside and I have an air conditioner. My car has one. Walmart has one. Like, every time I want to be cool, I just walk in a building. And it's to the point where most people in their day-to-day lives don't really have a concept of just how shitty it would be to be back in the 1800s on the prairie wearing heavy woolen clothes in the scorching sun, sweating and all this stuff, and just how much that fucking sucks, right? And now take that shittiness and amplify it times a bazillion. We are unbelievably spoiled by how effective and how safe vaccines are. Vaccines, the problem with vaccines is that they work too fucking well. And we are now so unbelievably insulated from all of these horrific, debilitating diseases that we don't really have a concept of just how awful life is when those diseases are prevalent. So the fact that we are even like having this conversation, go back to when polio was a big thing and go have an anti-vax conversation and get your ass knocked out by the people who know how horrible life is without these vaccines. Go back before the measles vaccine and have these grieving parents slap you across the face about how dare you make fun of this vaccine, make jokes about this vaccine, downplay this vaccine that has saved so many lives. We don't have a context for just how fucking awful life was before vaccines because they work too fucking well. But let me tell you, you should be thanking your lucky stars. If there is anything to be worshipfully thankful for, modern medicine is the thing. And like, it's vaccines are a major part of that.
Yeah. That's honestly, it's extremely impressive just how much work was able to get done as far as the COVID vaccine goes. And honestly, that new understanding, it helps a lot. It kind of brings a lot new context to why you need to get like multiple shots. I forget exactly what they were called, but it would be because the COVID vaccine, it mutated a lot, and as such, you need to deal with the new proteins on the vaccine so your body could actively fight it. So that makes a lot more sense now.
That's the whole reason like you have to get a new flu shot every year, because the virus, every time the virus spreads, it evolves. It's getting new opportunities to replicate slightly differently. And so if you get to a certain point where the virus has evolved so much, you now have a new variant, sort of like a new species, sort of. And this new variant is no longer going to be covered by the old vaccine. So you have to get a new vaccine for it, because this new variant, not only you aren't protected from it, but could have new symptoms, new side effects, new issues. And so, yeah, you just keep trying to keep up with it.
You need to deal with that.
And you can think about it like, if you want to make sense of it, think about it like bacteria. When you have a bacterial infection, you take antibiotics, right? And your doctor tells you to make sure to take all of your antibiotics. Don't stop once you start feeling good. And the reason for that is that you have, 100% of the bacteria in your body that are making you feel like shit. And you start taking those antibiotics. And little by little, you kill more and more and more of those bacteria until you have just a tiny bit left. And you feel great because these aren't enough bacteria to cause any clinical symptoms. But those are the bacteria, the mighty morphin mechazoid superpowered bacteria that have survived all of those antibiotics you've taken. And they're right there on the edge of death. And you just need a little more to really kill them. But you feel good, so you stop taking them. And then those super bacteria are the ones that reproduce. And now you are sick again with super powerful bacteria that are way harder to kill. Right? And this is how we get things like MRSA, antibiotic resistant bacteria that can really fuck people up. And where do we find things like MRSA? We find it in things like locker rooms and hospitals, places that are being cleaned all the time, and only these super strong bacteria work, right? And so this is the exact opposite with the virus. With the virus, rather than you already have it and you got to slowly kill it off, it's every time you let it infect another person, it's getting better and better and better because it's working its way around these vaccines. If enough people were vaccinated, John brought up the topic herd immunity. If enough people were vaccinated that this virus could not penetrate into this population of people, no problem. No spread, no evolution, it's done. But if it isn't the case, if you have gaps in that herd immunity, then the virus starts spreading in that population and enough people get infected and it mutates enough times, now all of a sudden the entire population is vulnerable again. 70% of them did their best to get vaccinated and prevent the virus from spreading. And because of the 30% that let it spread, it mutated, and now everybody 100% is vulnerable again. That make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense. I guess the very last piece that I kind of wanted to go over in regards to the second part of the question there. We've gone over sort of like the herd immunity mentality, where as more and more people get this vaccine, it's imperative that they do so that the people who can't and the people who are vulnerable aren't completely screwed over.
Precisely.
So, like from a utilitarian perspective, having these mandates entirely makes sense. Does it, like, in your opinion, does that overrun the need for bodily autonomy in regards to
Sometimes.
whether or not they can choose in order to get this vaccine?
Sometimes.
If it varies, how would it vary? You know, what would be the variables there?
Yeah, it depends on how deadly the disease is, how rapidly it spreads, like how at risk is how much of the population is something like that. And so if I remember correctly, there are some instances of this sort of thing. Like we talk about the Spanish flu, there was like mask mandates and shit like that at the time. And there's I think the first vaccine mandate in the country was started by George Washington for, I believe, soldiers, if I remember right. But like there's all sorts of situations where you have to kind of take in these factors, and that's the issue. That is the job of public health officials and immunologists and whatnot. Certainly not my area. But if you're asking me personally, I don't know if I'm qualified to give you an opinion. I think that there's some people that are really, really, really good at this shit that actually go to school for public health that can give you a precise metric on when to make that decision. If you were to ask me, I would just give you my general vibe, and that's not good for this kind of situation.
Well,
Okay,
for me
personally,
the way that I see it is that as far as bodily autonomy goes, would it be well within my bodily autonomy right? You know, it's my body, my choice in this particular respect, right? For me to just walk around some department store flinging my fists all around me, you know, ow, fuck.
Right. You hurt yourself doing it.
Yeah, I know. Let's just say I go to a department store, you know, and I'm around people and I just decide to fling my arms some way, right? I mean, I would end up hurting somebody, correct?
Yeah, it sounds like you would. Yeah, probably. You have the chance to at the very least.
Right. So, like, I have the ability not to punch somebody in the face, right? And so I feel like in order to take part in a society, then it's up to me to do that. Now, there are some people in society that have, certain muscular illnesses and whatnot, where they can't control their muscles all the time, right? And so, like, they obviously are not going to be able to, not, randomly move their hands and arms in certain ways, but I can. And so, like, I should not punch somebody or randomly move my arms in a way that's going to hurt another person. And I kind of feel like that is in the same respect, for vaccines. Technically, with me being a diabetic, I think in certain respects I am immunocompromised, but I can still get vaccines. Like, I get vaccinated every year for flu. I was totally up on every single booster and vaccine I could get for COVID-19 and everything. So, like, I feel like, if anybody that's saying, "Oh, my body, my choice," I shouldn't have to be able to get these vaccines. It's for you, protect you, but it's also to protect other people, because you don't want to go around like a department store flinging your arms and hurting people in that respect, while it's still your bodily autonomy to fling your arms around every place, I guess. That's still going to hurt other people. And I feel like the same thing for not getting vaccinated when you more than willing, or you're more than able to get vaccinated. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would
that's wrong.
I think it's a good analogy. I would also say, like, if you want to compare it to other regulations out there, seat belts are only maybe 50%, maybe 60% effective at reducing the risk of severe injury or death in a car accident. Airbags, like 35%, 40% on a good day. So you've got total, like, combined average, like somewhere around a 60-ish% chance of reducing serious injury in a car or death in a car crash with seat belts and airbags. That's significantly less helpful than a vaccine is in preventing illness, right? These vaccines are like upper 90s% effective. 80, I think 80 to 90% effective in some of these things. And so, like, fuck, man, which one, if you're willing to accept regulations on what you can do with your car and how you can drive and what kind of manufacturing things and all that, I'm not saying that's exactly the same as a vaccine mandate, but put that in perspective in your head. 60% reduction in serious injury in a car crash, and we're going to make sure everybody has airbags and seatbelts. Here's these vaccines that are 80 to 90, upper 90s% effective at preventing illness and death. Do we need to seriously sit here and have a big fucking debate about whether or not my body, my choice, and all that shit? Or do we need to talk about how many human lives we want to save? That's my thought.
Yeah, that's actually a fantastic point. Unfortunately, I do come from a community that absolutely sees the choice of whether or not you should even wear a seatbelt as, like, oh, I shouldn't be pulled over for something that's only going to affect me,
Yeah, it's stupid.
But
yeah, man, I hope that...
I think that answers... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say the same thing. I was going to say, I hope that answers all your questions.
Oh, it absolutely does. Y'all have been great. This was very engaging. This was educational. I'm glad we had this discussion, and honestly, a great shout out to the people in the chat, because they've been super helpful, and they were extremely kind, which I don't see very often, unfortunately, on these calls. Which it's great. It's awesome.
We tend to match energy here on the line, so when we get a caller that's being an asshole about their god or defending slavery, people tend to be a little bit spicy about it. But you've been fantastic. You were very polite and very cool, and you asked great questions. If you have any more, feel free to call us back sometime, and try to hit one of the biologist people on the show if you have a biology question. But if you have any other questions about any other kind of science, that's what we're here for, especially on this show, specifically SkepTalk. That's what it's for.
Absolutely. Thank y'all. Enjoy those super chats.
Take care.
I'll hop off here.
Most definitely. Yeah. All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, Riley.
Someone in the chat, Maureen O'Hara in the chat, also just pointed out, bodily autonomy and all that, but also smoking laws. You can't smoke indoors because it puts people at risk. And, like, that's, yeah, it makes sense. And there's just as many people who argue about that.
Yeah, I actually remember a time in my local area where they had just enacted the laws about not smoking indoors, and there was like a business that was like really pissed off, and they put out a sign like "We're being forced to do this," and it's like, oh my god, yeah, you're being forced not to spread secondhand smoke. Oh fuck.
Yep. Really quick, I was supposed to do this earlier, but we're doing it now. We've got coming up this week, Chewed Gum with Alyssa and Taylor, The Hang Up with Matt Dillahunty and Jesse Jerdak, Transatlantic Call-In Show with Ben and Luxander. Then on Sunday, we've got Matt and Aaron Adair for the Sunday show, me and somebody on Sunday Show After Dark. Then next SkepTalk is going to be me and Paul, and then next Chewed Gum is going to be Alyssa and Erica, and that's the end of September. Those are all your September shows. Also, we've got the LineCon coming up. Yet another one of the LineCon online, posted by the Line, presented by the Line, LineCon line stuffs. $15 plus patrons have access to the presentations and the Q&A. $5 patrons get to see the VOD. Clips go public within a few months. So if you want to see the whole thing live, make sure you're on the Patreon at least the $15 tier. Who are our speakers this time? We've got Jimmy Snow, Arden Hart, and Justin from Deconstruction Zone will be your speakers this time. So tune into that if you want to tune into that. And if you don't, then don't. I'm not a cop. Those are the announcements that I was supposed to do, and now I have done them. And nobody can say I can't, and I'm a good employee. With that, you ready to jump into Super Chats?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's chat up those supers, y'all. There we go. $5 Canadian from Reverend Nate. Time to fuck out. Aaron is an Avgin fan? What? What is happening? Oh, fuck. Okay. I don't know what anything is. I'm very confused. I don't know if you heard our producer out there in the world, but apparently this was from last time, a different show. We'll get another one up there soon enough. How are you, John?
I'm doing all right. A little tired. I had a pretty busy day at work.
I'm sorry about that.
So, yeah, I mean, that's just, me being a lazy liberal at work, So ours 5,000, I don't know if this is pirate money. Max V, who says, "What a wonderful pair of hosts. Let's go."
Nice. Got a nice pair of hosts on $10 from the atheist mechanic. As a 31-year-old man, if I take Tylenol now, does that mean I get extra autisms, ADHD, and extra gay? Is that how it works? Since we're throwing science out the effing window, we can only hope that's how it works. That's what we're deciding. Yes, because science is all about feelings now. So yes.
If I could take Tylenol to get extra ADHD, sometimes that might help. Like, just in dealing with today, I felt like I was moving in like 15 different directions. It'd be great if I could like turn up, the speed a little bit and be able to manage everything like that. Just get some extra ADHD in.
Bullshit, because I had the exact same light temperature settings as the show yesterday, and for some reason, I just looked like I was in a void when I got on here. So I'm still fucking with it. 10 theoretical dollars from Where Is Waldo? I need a video of an animated worm sticking out of RFK Jr.'s ears singing Dr. Worm by Teenage Mutant Beautiful Gingers. I'm not a real doctor, but I am a real worm. I don't know what that is. But Teenage Mutant Butthole Guardians? Hell yeah.
There we go. $10 for the atheist mechanic saying, "If George Soros is paying us leftist woke trash, then where's my goddamn check?" Hey, it's always in the mail. It's in the mail. You'll get it, or you won't, but you might.
That's why Trump wants to defund the postal service. That's what it's all about. So we don't get our checks anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Ouija boards cost $9.99 at toy stores. People often think they have magical powers. Think about that. It is actually a Hasbro game. I don't know who sent this or how much they spent to send it, but it is legitimately a Hasbro game. It's a children's game. That shit, it's not real.
$5 from June Bramley, who says, it's the internet, Marlon. Everyone really should come in with the assumption that someone is fucking with them until given evidence otherwise. I agree.
It's a $5 from Teeny. Have y'all ever considered asking Holy Kool-Aid onto the show? Just curious, because I think he'd work well with you guys. I don't know. That's a Jimmy question, not a me question, really.
Yes, let's defer that to Jimmy.
Yes, make it his problem.
$10 from the atheist mechanic. I know the answer, but $10 from the atheist mechanic. So according to Andrew, asking God to show himself would get you struck with lightning. What a weak way of showing existence, if it's even true. I agree.
I've got a Van de Graaff generator. I've got a Van de Graaff generator in that closet right over there. I'm gonna fucking make lightning in front of you right now. Yet I am better than your God. I would do it too, but every time I do it in here, I'll crank that thing and it'll go zap, and then my computer makes a disconnect noise like I unplug something, and I don't think that's good for it. I don't know how any of that works.
As a computer engineer, no, it's not. A good noise.
Man. $10 from the atheist mechanic. So Andrew doesn't believe in the Trinity, but does at the same time. I need some Tylenol. Careful, you'll turn autistic and gay.
Yeah. $4.99 from Simeon Urchin, who says it's the Gnostic belief system that the Old Testament God is called the Demiurge and is the creator of this flawed world that faith died rather quick. Yeah, and probably because it makes literally no sense. I would say it probably died quick because it makes no sense with how the New Testament's constructed.
It is an interesting tale. Like I said, I've never heard that before, and it is an interesting way to rationalize the fact that the God of most of the Old Testament is clearly a fucking different person. Like the God of the Old Testament, because of the way the Bible is put together, right? The God of the Old Testament is corporeal. He's walking around. He's talking to people. He doesn't know everything that's going on. He makes mistakes. Like, as all this stuff happens, he's not an omnipotent deity, and it isn't until later that he knows everything. Not a sparrow falls from the sky without him knowing, and all this other stuff, right? And so, like, it's an interesting way to rationalize it. It just doesn't get out of any of the logical issues of believing the thing exists in the first fucking place. It gets you out of some of the logical issues of, like, assuming univocality or consistency within the Bible. You're immune from that, but you're certainly not immune from the evilness of the God, or why you believe in a thing without good evidence, or any of that other stuff. It sucks. $4.99 from Jack. Look at that dog. Thank you very much.
That's a nice dog. Can I pet that dog?
You cannot. It's on the screen. Just a picture.
Shit. $10 from Joshua Everett, who says, is everyone ready for the rapture tomorrow? Serious responses only.
I just released a video on TikTok and Instagram about that, because yes, my wife has been all over Rapture talk. And yeah, tomorrow or the next day, because it's never fucking certain, right? Either the 23rd or the 24th, supposedly the rapture is going to happen. And going to be a lot of free clothes laying around. It's going to be fun. $5 from this fucking herb. Remember, everyone, do not leave a pile of clothes on your lawn in the morning to scare your Christian neighbors. Don't do that. Now, who would have an idea like that?
I don't know. I mean, it's crazy. I just figured I'd warn people about not doing that. $5 from a Morgan saying, getting together all Christians with unique or new interpretations of the Bible to form a new church. No weirdos.
It'll be a small church to eliminate the weirdos.
Yep.
$19.99 from Starfire. The rapture tomorrow happens. That's the first thing you two are going to do. What's the first thing you two are going to do when the two people who make it in disappear? I mean, it sounds like after Rapture is going to be a party, y'all. Like, that's what I'm in for. I'm going to be pre-gaming the Rapture tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that if the rapture happens, then it's going to be chaos. And I mean, I'm hitting up the Walmart first. Like, Walmart's got everything in it. Like, you hit that up, or a Costco or something. Like, you just pick it all up.
I hate to say go for the toilet paper first, but that is what other idiots will go for first. So you have to be careful.
Yeah.
No. Is this you or me?
I think you.
$5 from Jack, and it's a swan. Look at that swan. I like that swan. Swans are good things.
$10 from God Sinner says, I recognize this voice. Marie was on with Jimmy and Jovan. I can't remember defending some horrible stuff and defending herself with ableism from Caracal. Yeah, her name was Jane, and apparently she called to talk in about trans people, trans rights, and how they're special rights.
And that was only because we like went on call in studio, a little behind the scenes magic here for you. On call in studio, which is the platform that we use to take and maintain our calls, we have different shows isolated. So here on the line, all of the line shows are in this one box, but like Jimmy's channel, when he does like his stuff, that's a different. So if he was on with if she called in with Jimmy and Jovan, that might have been on a different thing with a different call that we wouldn't have seen. And what we saw there was the third time when she called in with something fucking stupid. So like I don't know, man. It's rough. I'm looking calling it now. I'm gonna see if she was on anytime recently over there.
1086.
This is a Dave
Corey Springer. Yeah, and I have to say, masterful icon there, Corey. I appreciate that one.
$9.99 from Ashray84. Just showing love to two of my faves. Here's to not defending slavery.
Low bars.
Shouldn't be that fucking hard.
$4.99 from Hannah Hodgkinson. You're right, Marie. I want nothing to do with your evil god. I'm right there with
Hodgkinson? You. That's great.
Oh, sorry. What?
No, Hodgkinson.
Hodgins.
Hodgkinson is right. No, Hodgkinson is correct. Okay. Keep it that way. I was calling her Hodgkins for a long time, and then she pointed out that's wrong. Now I've been calling her Hannah. It's like, no, Hodgkinson is great. $10 from the Atheist Mechanic. Marie's call went such a weird and sad direction. Ma'am, do better. Seriously, it started out with like, hey, we cannot be your therapist. Holy fuck, that's awful. I'm so sorry that happened to you. Please seek professional help. We mean that in the best ways. And then it was like, okay, yes, I do understand that some religious people also have trauma. That's fine. And we ended with, hey, you know, slavery's always bad, right? Like, can we agree on that at least? Shit. What a fucking whirlwind of a call.
Yeah, $9.99 from Shop Boy says trans rights are human rights. I couldn't agree
Delete that
more.
one. No all caps. We got 5,000 Australian rump suckers. That sounds like a slur. From Max V, this is just a Luxander appreciation message. We're always down for those.
$10 from the Atheist Mechanic. God can fart out existence, but chariots of iron and slavery are just too powerful to stop, and the devil just has free reign? What a weak-ass God.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Fucking dog buns up in here. $5 from Cade Space. We need to introduce Marlon, Andrew, and Marie to the monad. They can't handle it. They can't handle it. They're not ready for that. I'm not seeing.
10 pounds from Barbara Barrett, who says when musicians die, they decompose. Sorry.
Nice. That's very good. $5 from Glorious Guy. I also have a joke that I've been sitting on for a while that I think is fun. What's the difference between Stevie Wonder and no, bring that back. I didn't read it. What's the difference between Stevie Wonder and Donald Trump?
I don't know what.
One's a blind pianist, and the other one fucked kids on an island with Jeffrey Epstein.
That's true.
$5 from Glorious Cracked Out Wall Kitten. What a name. Forrest, you're one of my favorite YouTubers ever. I've learned so much about evolution and the Bible as well. Thanks so much for watching. It's very kind of you.
$5 from the Atheist Mechanic. Sure thing, Dr. Valkai.
Not a doctor yet. Give it two or so more years. $9.99 from Outwitted by Fish. Money makes the world go around, but Dunning-Kruger reigns supreme over internet research. That's absolutely right. That's the bad side of that one call about how Dunning-Kruger leads to innovation. It also leads you to do vaccine research on the toilet, and that's never good.
$5 from Mystic Minds Analysis Tavern. That sounds like an awesome tavern. Does the existence of a pathogen imply the existence of a rotogen or an allergen? And then I added later a bridgogen.
Cul-de-sacogen. $20 from Mr. Borrico at 10. Good show, a bit of spice during these calls. As for Forrest's wife's message, yes, just feed it, no eat. Just feed and no eat. Kids is easy. She are great mom already. Also seems I'm autistic because my parent took med for help. Thanks a lot. That's great.
$20 from Alan Michael says mRNA vaccine was revolutionary, but with how bad the conspiracies were around it when there is another mRNA vaccine, how are we going to convince people that that is a good thing, that it will treat cancer or whatever else?
I'm working on it.
Question.
My doctoral research actually does include how the big focus of it is how to make science get through to people of diverse and antagonistic ideological backgrounds. And I'm trying to develop a molecular model for this shit, and it's going to be great if I can pull this off even a little bit, y'all. We might be able to change some minds out there. I've got some plans. $5 from Braxton Forrest. Explanation of the way vaccine works is fun. It makes me want to go watch Osmosis Jones. Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
I actually watched that in high school. It was sad. Catheters all around. $5 from Reverend Nate that says, why does no one call in to ask about ADT, adenosine triphosphate? Shit's wild.
Adenosine triphosphate, yeah.
Oh, adenosine. Sorry, I fucked that up. Shit's wild, and that stuff is especially ripe for the bong grip theology crowd. Like, lol. Wait, so it's like adenosine triphosphate. Like, what the fuck, man?
So adenosine triphosphate is the energy that your cells use to do things. And so you've got this adenine here, and you've got 3 phosphates on the side of it. And so you have triphosphate, and you just the bonds holding those phosphates together have a lot of chemical energy. And so you just knock one off, turn a triphosphate into diphosphate, and that gives you energy, bam, 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 to do stuff. Just about everything your cells do that requires energy. ATP is what's doing it. And is made through a pump called ATP synthase, which lives on the outsides of your mitochondria. And that's why your mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell, because they make ATP and they make the cellular energy that lets you do the blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's the whole point of your Krebs cycle and shit. I don't know, like, how, yeah, if you were high as all balls, talking about that for a very long time would be neat. But first you have to memorize the fucking Krebs cycle. And it's rough. I'm looking over Jimmy's channel, and I'm not seeing this person calling in, but I am seeing a lot of fun calls that I want to listen to. Not trying to promote him or anything.
$4.99 from Ashray84 says calls like this, Riley, are 100% why I support these guys and this channel. Thank you.
Hell yeah. Thank you very much.
I didn't have a lot of input, but you know.
I mean, there at the end, it was a lot of biology shit, but like, I feel like we covered some important topics.
Yeah.
$5. You got a break. That's what matters. That's what you come to the show to do, is to sit there and not talk while I ramble on like an asshole for hours on end. That's what friendship's all about. The $5 from Inane Glory. I'm autistic. My father was. My son is. Tylenol wasn't an option available to my mother and grandmother. Explain how Tylenol caused that, RFK Jr. Acetaminophen has magical time travel powers. You see, that's what it is. It just goes back and fucks with your kids and your great grandkids backwards.
$4.99 from Hannah Hodgins. Wait, Hodginson, right? I have no problems with vaccines. My only problem is I pass out from feeling of the needle. Passed out in a pharmacy once, woke up with a juice box. Yeah. I had to get used to needles real quick. So
I can't imagine why. Yeah, no, it's I used to be really fucking freaked out by needles, and they used to make me like violently panicky, and I had to calm down on that too. And now I can give shots real well too. I'm getting smooth in both directions. $5 from Kate Space. My immunocompromised ass thanks you for your vaccine fervor. Thoughts and prayers for your ass, and I hope it gets better.
$5 from Inane Glory. This says, don't like vaccines. Look at infant mortality data pre and post 1900 to see how effective vaccines have been. I agree. You should definitely see the actual, the demonstrated effects of it.
I was just thinking, something that helped me a lot when I was overcoming vaccine or needle anxiety. A lot of people say don't look at it. That makes it worse for me. I don't know. But what definitely helps is blow really hard, like you're blowing out birthday candles while it's going in, because it kind of gets your mind focused on something. So whenever it's happening, just as hard as you can while they're doing that. And it gets your brain focusing on something else, and it like gives you like a set, like I can't possibly be longer than me blowing, and I know how long blowing is, so I'm not in this world forever, you know. $10 from Tyson. Forrest, would you be open to a conversation about Zen Buddhism? Doesn't have to be over live. Would just love to pick your mind about humanist parallels. Last Buddhist caller made odd points. My grandma was big into Buddhism. And I won't pretend to know much about it, but like, I'm not interested into the stuffs. I'm just not like, it would just be a cultural conversation for me, and I don't have any time for those. So I appreciate the offer, but as far as like really going in to study this, probably not anytime soon. Just because I'm stretched too thin at this moment. Sorry.
$10 from Brent J says, well, that does it. I'm switching to paracetamol. Thanks for all you do, Tommy and Berthepus. Paracetamol? Okay.
I'm pretty sure paracetamol is also acetaminophen. Yes, it is. I just double checked. Yeah. So paracetamol is Tylenol. It's the exact same thing. The chemical name is acetaminophen. And Tylenol is the brand name of that drug here in the US, and paracetamol is the brand name of that drug in most of the rest of the world. I remember that's in like all of Europe, and I know when I was in South America, that was what it was. I'm pretty sure that's like wider. But you can also get off-brand. You can get fucking acetaminophen all over the place. Like, just look for the brand color is red. Go to the painkillers, look for red, and you will find acetaminophen, and it's 10 times cheaper than Tylenol because it's the same fucking drug without the brand name logo. It's the same thing, same milligrams, same effectiveness, same everything. And that's why I think it's so fucking cool that Trump and company are too fucking stupid to pronounce the word acetaminophen. If they had just said acetaminophen, then they would have been talking about just a generic drug, and it would have been, who knows who would have had an issue with that. But they keep saying specifically Tylenol, which is a specific brand that is owned by a specific corporation that has a vested interest in selling this specific drug, which they are now making bold claims about without any fucking evidence. And I hope that Kenview sues them into the fucking ground. $10 from the Atheist Mechanic. Thoughts on GI Robot from Creature Commandos? The character is a robot programmed to unalive Nazis, to kill Nazis. I'm cool with saying kill Nazis. I appreciate that, though. I have never seen Creature Commandos, but I do know the memes. And yeah, fun. He's a fun thing.
$10 from Green Man Dave. Wait, you don't know of They Might Be Giants? This must be remedied. Look up Timmy's Muscular Butt Guardians, Why the Sun Shines and Why the Sun Really Shines. Do it. It must be out of the butt.
I know They Might Be Giants. I didn't recognize that acronym. Also, props to the gold star to the person in chat who said that paracetamol is just metric Tylenol. That's absolutely right. 999 from Outwitted by Fish. If at all possible, could you bring back Qasim? Fantastic guest. I would love that. He was a really, really cool dude. And especially with everything going on now, I would love to hear more of his thoughts and opinions on things. Dude, like, he has yet to say a single thing that I disagree with. Like, on anything that he puts out. He's fucking amazing. And I do love, I know that we're an atheist network. I do love having religious guests from time to time because if they're a good enough person for me to bring on here, we can just not talk about religion for a minute and talk about this stuff. Like, I want to get that out there because holy shit, there are a lot of atheists out there. I don't think this channel is as bad about it, but like, holy shit, there are a lot of atheists out there that will make the whole line about how all religion is a mental illness and how all religious people are evil and like they forget to separate religion from people, and it fucking annoys the shit out of me. Qasim's an amazing dude, and I strive to be like him when I grow up. Just not Muslim. I just don't want to be Muslim. I just want to be as good as he is.
Is this me?
I think so.
10 euros from Modris Melon Gallus, who says, can you, Forrest, explain like I'm 5 why viruses don't count as live? It was a great show, by the way.
We don't have a definition for life. We have 7 qualifications for what life is. Not what living things are, what life is. But we judge it by what it does. So all life, we have these 7 things. It has to have form and function. It can't just be an amorphous blob. Even things like slime molds, which look like amorphous blobs, are really, really structured. It has to have growth and development. It can't just pop in and pop out of existence. It has set stages to its life. It has to do energy conversion. So it has to take in energy somehow and use it to stay alive. Chemosynthesis, photosynthesis, eating, whatever it may be. It has to respond to stimuli. So there has to be things happen to it, and it does stuff in return. Even sessile creatures like corals and stuff you wouldn't expect. Absolutely, they are responding to stimuli around them. Plants do, everything does. It has to reproduce. Life tends to make more of itself. That's like the hallmark characteristic of it. It has to do homeostasis. It has to maintain a stable internal environment that's separate from the external environment and like kept in a stable condition. And number 7, it has to evolve. All life evolves over time as it continues to reproduce. So you notice, like, if you don't have kids, it doesn't mean you're not alive, right? So you have these 7 things that determine what life as a whole is. Viruses have form and function, and they evolve. And that's about it. You can argue they respond to stimuli, but it's just they bind to cells and shit. They can't reproduce on their own. They have to hijack your cell machinery to do it. They don't convert energy. They don't really have a growth and development stage. They're just built and they fuck off and they blob into a cell. So they just don't do enough of the things that life does to qualify as life by our understanding of life. That said, they don't seem to give half a fuck about what we think and what our classification system is. So it is still somewhat debated as to whether or not viruses are alive. And that's why I start my taxonomic tree with life. Life, domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species, Jesus. Because life on top tells you, viruses aren't alive, so you have to put them in a different box. $5 from Space Barbarian. Fundraising idea. Post-Rapture movies called Left Alone. I'd be down with that.
That's just me on the weekends. Never Zoolander 5 from the Chaos Gremlin. The monad protects.
It does, and it does everything else too forever. 5 monarchy bucks from the Fuzzy Logic. John, what is the first commandment of your Lord God Fieri? Wrong answers only.
Thou shalt go to Flavor Town. That's what it is.
$10 from the Atheist Mechanic. It's me? I don't know. Are you monad enough for the monad? Yes and no.
$5 from Reverend Nate. That was a hell of a left turn in the joke, Forrest. Have you considered a NASCAR career?
I do love turning to the left. $5 from Dante Verona. Wait, does that mean all the Trump supporters will be raptured? Don't answer that. Sometimes I just need to dream. I'm telling you, man, post-rapture party.
$5 from Kate Space. It says the Krebs cycle still haunts my dreams.
Reasonable. Very reasonable.
It's a biology thing. I don't know it.
Let me tell you about NADH and stuff. $6.99 in frozen colorful dollars from Maureen O'Hara. Trumpy said babies don't need Hep B shot because the babies don't have ESOP, but start with 12-year-olds. Yeah, I think we talked about that a minute ago. Like that only 12-year-olds need, because that's when you should start having sex. And it's like, what are you saying, bro?
Right. Yeah.
Also, babies don't have sex. You know what they do have? Livers, which is why you should protect them against hepatitis. You fucking idiot. Like, goddamn. Oh, so stupid.
$4.99 from Hannah Hodgins. It's weird. Needles don't scare me. I just have an awful passing out issue with sensory feelings. I do great with tattoos and piercings, though. The fuck?
Yeah, it's crazy. I one time had a shit ton of dental work done all at once, and it made it so that every time I felt weird textures, my teeth felt like they were going to fall out of my head. It was just the weirdest thing. And I sat down, especially my shower curtain. When I reached into the shower, turned the thing on, if my fingernails brushed the shower curtain, I felt like I was going to die. And so I just sat there for like 20 minutes one day. I was so fucking sick of it. And I just rubbed this fucking shower curtain and just hated my way through it until it wasn't a problem anymore. What I'm saying, Hannah, is that you need to go get a lot of vaccines. just go find some needles and just poke them about you until this is no longer an issue. Find used ones on the ground.
No. That's a bad idea. That's a bad idea. Get sterilized.
Take medical advice from us here on the line. Send your lawsuits to Jimmy Snow at the line.
$10 from God's Center. My households hold uses aceta, how you spell it, acetaminophen, ibuprofens, and Aleve. I would apologize for spelling it, but Google couldn't figure out what I was saying. From Caracal.
Yeah, ibuprofen and Aleve. Ibuprofen and Aleve, both of them, if I remember correctly, are... I know ibuprofen is an NSAID, and I think Aleve is as well. It's a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug, which means you should not take that shit on an empty stomach, because it'll eat a fucking hole in your stomach lining, give you an ulcer, cause bad stomach pain. So acetaminophen is just a safer way to do that shit. Also, acetaminophen toxicity, huge fucking problem. Also, I'm not a doctor. So talk to your doctor before taking literally anything forever, except for Hannah, who can go use needles on the side. She said that, not me.
Yeah. Also, just to note that for children, for like babies, if they're running like a high fever, they actually... No, they advise you switch up between like a Tylenol or acetaminophen and ibuprofen.
It breaks the fever, to switch back and forth, It's also, you can use those in different ways. You know, if you have if you have swelling and you want the pain reliever, go for the NSAID. It's anti-inflammatory, as opposed to if you just have joint pain for whatever fucking reason without swelling being a problem. Go for it. You can make informed decisions, is what I'm saying. Informed decisions are fun.
Yeah. I think I can't take NSAIDs anymore, right? Yeah, I actually can't have NSAIDs anymore. I have to take it. I have to get the extra ADHD every time I take it. Anyways, $5 from an Anglory John. Can you get Dr. Carrier on the line? He would be a great co-host with you. I'll say that if you really want to interact with Dr. Carrier and myself, probably going over to my channel, Godless Engineer, would be the best place because I have him on a lot over there. So, we've taken calls before, but I would definitely consider breaking the bank to get him on there for another call-in show one day.
$5 Canadian from Reverend Nate. Viruses are the only organism that are worse at dancing and seasoning food than my Caucasian brethren. How dare you? You've not tried my cooking. Dancing, I give you. Dancing, 100% correct.
Let's see, $5 from Michael Thoney. John, are there any plans to have Jasper return as a guest? I mean, there's always room for Jasper. So I'd love to have her back on, and I hope that other people decide to have her back on now that she's kind of connected here at the line. She does really great, and I'll definitely consider it in the future.
Sweet treat in the chat. Yes, Aleve is naproxen sodium. Yeah. And acetaminophen is Tylenol or paracetamol, and ibuprofen is what's in the other ones. Fuck. Advil, that's the one. Yes. God. Yeah, if you learn the fucking chemical names behind the brand names, you will save yourself a shit ton of money. $5 from Draven Dresden. I had a bad day. I'm sorry to hear it. Oh, fucking Jesus Christ. I just saw the goddamn profile pic. Fuck off with that. That's awful. That's awful. Ugh. All it takes is one bad day. Woof.
Yeah.
Man. What a show. John, do you have anything you want to send us off with? Anything you want to use to wrap up?
I hope that everybody will stand up, use your voice for all of the stuff that's happening right now as far as Christian nationalism goes and everything. Just make sure you be heard out there. I know I'm pretty loud over there on Facebook and Threads and wherever else. And I hope that y'all are too.
I think that's something I wish we would have brought up to Jane/Marie or whoever is like, if you want to talk about Christianity, what about the rise of Christian nationalism and Christian fascism today? That's a thing, know? But hey, I don't think it would have gotten through to her either. Y'all, thanks so much for tuning in. This is the show. Sorry about it. Thanks so much to John for being my co-host today. It's always fun working with you. Thank you much to our amazing producer, Alexander. Thank you so much to the mods in chat. Thank you so much to the people in chat, even the ones that suck. This is loud as fuck. Thank you so much to the callers, even the ones that suck. Have an awesome rest of your day and never stop learning. Bye!